What up, though? One Pride. This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where One Pride goes worldwide. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey. It is a Wednesday evening, and that can only mean one thing: the College Football Podcast is back. And Ryan, for the first time in forever, we've had a full slate of college games on over the weekend. We've been staying up till stupid o'clock watching them, watching all the highlights. God, it's good that it's all back, isn't it?
Yep, it's been such a long time without it. It's been back with a bang as well. There's been some really interesting games, and some of them have been very close to call, and some of them have been huge blowouts. So it's, especially with the horizon of like, we're now on the new dawn of a soon-to-be 12-team playoffs, so that teams are thinking about that, how that's going to come into effect, how that's going to look in future. So a lot of teams right now are trying to stamp their place on that going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was looking at the slate this weekend, all the fixtures, thinking, which games are we going to talk about? Obviously, we're going to go through the pick watch games we've done, but I mean, there was like a list of 20, 25. There were upsets, there were blowouts, there were non-scorers. You know, this weekend had just a little bit of everything in there. Blocked field goals, all sorts. And yeah, it was absolutely wonderful. I'm glad it's back. I've not slept for the last week whatsoever, but I don't really care. This is what the college football season's about. This is what we enjoy about it. So today we are going to be taking a look back at week one. We're going to review the games. We're going to review some of the ones we did for the Pick Watch League and maybe pick a few of the other interesting fixtures out. We're going to look at week two, previewing that going forward. And we may also have a few other bits and bobs there in for you. We'll see what time does for us this evening. Just got to do all that housekeeping stuff first. So, the Roar Lions UK podcast, our main Detroit Lions podcast. If you didn't see it on Monday, we broke down the 53-man roster and Hard Knocks episode 4. That was a lot of good fun. And we are back tomorrow, the Thursday preview podcasts for us during the real NFL season starting this week, because Detroit Lions football is back this weekend as well. So we've got college football, we've got Lions football. We are just getting all the gifts in the world here at the minute, and we will be having the wonderful British Eagles podcast on with us as well. So we're going to have some Eagles fans to spar with, do a little bit of banter with. You're going to want to see that. That's going to be very enjoyable. Roar Lions UK Discord, if you want to come and join us, have a chat in there. We've got all sorts going on there at the minute. Just hit us up, we'll send you a link. As always, you know, it's more people the better. Got a lot of people in there already. Thanks ever so much if you are in there with us. Lions Nation Unite, the app run by Detroit Lions legend Herman Moore. The app made where all the content is made by the fans for the fans. You can find so many great guys on there, including us as well, but there are a lot more on there as well. So, yeah. Come and join Lions Nation Unite as well and see some of the round tables we do. That is a lot of good fun. And as always, thank you to everyone who is joining us this evening. We've got a few in on YouTube. John Ball says, hello UK. Hello to you, good sir. Thank you for joining us this evening. Always good to have you along. And I know Ash is already chirping away in the Twitch chat as well, waiting until we talk about Florida State. And Ash, we will not disappoint you this evening. Thanks for joining as always. Right, so because we're sort of back in season again, if you've not sort of been joining the college podcast last year when we did this during the season, we have a few little segments that we're bringing back from the previous season. We've got a lot to go through here, so we're going to start off with the news first. Just a little bit of news I want to discuss this week. Obviously, there's a lot that goes on. We can only talk about so much here, but there's a piece of good news that came out this week relating to Wake Forest quarterback Sam Hartman. We talked about him a few weeks ago. He was ruled out potentially for a very long time with an injury, illness, ailment. Nothing has really been mentioned about it. We didn't know whether it was a physical injury, whether it was, you know, mental health taking its toll a little bit there, but he was ruled out for a while. But the good news came out this week that he has been medically cleared to return, and he will be lining up under centre for Wake Forest against the unbeaten Vanderbilt Commodores. something you don't often say this weekend going forward. So I mean, that's great news for him, Ryan. I mean, this was a big season for him. His draft year's coming up, so it's good that he's got his issues out the way, whatever it is, and hopefully he can now go on and have a successful season and fire Wake Forest to maybe an ACC title.
I do wonder if it's because it's his final year. I'm pretty sure he's got no more eligibility. He may be too soon. He may be ready. We don't know what's wrong with him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to be very rusty, or if he should have returned quite yet. Because it sounded very serious, but to miss like 10 days seems odd to me. Like I say, it came out like I said it was something that seemed quite alarming. That it had like say some diagnosis, and then to be cleared so quickly, I find it. Well, it's a strange one. Like I said, there's been no speculation, there's been no word whatsoever it could have been with. But at least it's Vanderbilt. Like I said, really, they're not going to test him all that much, so it's probably the best game to bring him back. And if he was going to miss most of the season, you could have written him off completely for the ACC title. They could not win it without him. I don't think that has been possible. As well as the good backup he did in the first game of the season, they needed him. And he needed it for his draft stock. He could not have missed this year. So, well, it'll be interesting to see how rusty he is, or if he's straight back into the groove. So, we're going to find out a lot of questions about him.
Well, that's it. And I mean, they're coming up against the Vanderbilt Commodore side, which are unbeaten. They're 2-0. I know it's just Hawaii, and it was the FCS team they beat this weekend, but wins are wins. So it's going to be interesting. They are an SEC team at the end of the day, so we will see how he gets on. But overall, it's just really good to have him back, and hopefully whatever issues he had are now in the past there with him. Johnny's Ghosts in the YouTube chat, he says, go Lions, definitely. Det Fanman is in the chat. General Booty looked great holding that clipboard. I have no doubt that he did. I'm sure he had a great weekend. Oklahoma, I believe. It's probably one of the few games I didn't even look at the scoring, but I think they did pretty well from, if I do remember. I did scroll through the scores earlier. Like I said, there's that many games we could go through this week. It's we could be here till tomorrow talking about them. But yeah, good there for him. Ken Stauder is in the chat as well. He says, I'm going to the Michigan-Hawaii night game. Has a 50-point spread, facepalm. It does. I think it's 47.5, or at least it was when it opened, but I can't think there's many games in college football that have a spread that high. I don't know if it's a record, probably not a record, but it must not be far off. But yeah, Hawaii have looked awful. Chrome is in the chat as well. He goes, what up to you, sir? Thank you for joining as always. The other little bit I wanted to discuss, I mean, you've already alluded to this, Ryan, and I know what your thoughts are about it, but the college football playoffs 2026, they are going to be expanding to 12 teams. Now, I know you're a vehement opponent of this, and some might see the Georgia-Oregon game at the weekend and go, well, that's what you're going to get in the postseason here. But the news came out today that the revenue they might make from this is as much as $2 billion annually. So this feels like something that's maybe driven by money rather than competition. The spirit of competition of getting those few places. But I mean, just recap your thoughts about this one, because obviously it's a big bit of news in the college world.
It's all money driven. It's nothing to do with the football. Like I said, I think 12 teams is too much money. You're just watering it down. You will not get the upsets you want. I think you go to 8, 10 at most, but I just got 8 expanded. Give the first 4 guys a bye, and then let the other, the 6 and 7 and 8, let those seeds play off in a wild card. I think 12 is too many. And for the love of God, do not put conference winners in automatically. You do not want the Pac-12 champions in a goddamn championship playoff, because we've just seen the supposed possible Pac-12 team, championship team this year, and it looked dreadful. So it's just not going to warrant the competition that people get. I understand it gives you something to play for. The top 4 teams will need something to play for because they can get a bye. They will have a week off, and then you let the rest of them scramble. But when it gets down to those semi-finals, you're still going to see blowouts. So to make $2 billion doesn't surprise me. The greedy people on the committee, rubbing their hands who make poor judgment anywhere, are all just rubbing their little greedy hands together, counting their beans like Scrooge McDuck. I'd say for some teams, maybe it's great. You might get a historic 8th seed. But you might lose 50-0 in the opening round. You might just do it Cincinnati. So it's for me, it's not the same. I understand other sports have it, but other sports are more level across their playing field. Like there's a handful of teams in the FBS, and then the rest of them just fall by the wayside. There is not that level of competition, like say baseball, NFL, hockey. You just can't compare them to college football because the drop off is so big.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're looking at last year, I mean, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Utah would have been the last three teams in last year, and you're kind of like, you know, Ole Miss getting in the playoffs last year, they didn't deserve to get in the playoffs. Utah did. I don't know how the Ole Miss ended up ranked higher than Utah by the end of the year, but yeah, that's kind of what you're looking at if you go to 12. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think Utah would have done well, but when you put them against Bama and that, the gap's just too big. You saw what happened to Cincinnati, who were 4th seed. They got absolutely blown out the water, and you're thinking, God, if that's happening to 4th... Now, I get it, first 4 don't play first week, but still, I think there's going to be a lot of inequality in there when it comes to it. And plus, those teams are going to get a week off to heal their wounded, get the players back, they're going to be fresher, fitter. What about this 12th seed who's battered going through 2 games, then gets into love against a fully fit Alabama side? What the hell do you think they're going to do to them? I mean, it's just not going to be fair, really, is it? You know, they're just going to be battered and bruised by the time they're coming up against the behemoths of college football, and it's just an unfair advantage.
Yeah. Like I said, going back to last year, Cincinnati getting blown out for me. Unfortunately, what happened last year has made it almost impossible for me for a group of 5 team to get in now. The committee will see what happened at Cincinnati last year, and I don't think will they ever put a group of 5 team in again now? I don't know. The biggest issue in college football right now for me is the transfer portal and NIL, not expanding the college football playoff, but one of them makes money and one of them costs and moves around money. So I can see why they've addressed one of them and they're not looking at the bigger issue right now. Yeah,
and John Bull brings up a good point in the YouTube chat. He goes, too many teams in the playoffs, but just asking for career-ending injuries for those extra games, all about the money. Yeah, if you're a player and you're like a top 10 draft pick and you're like, alright, you're going to go out there and play 3 extra games now, are you not just going to turn around and say, well, no, I'm not going to play for you? Are you going to bail like you do on the bowl games currently? Is it just going to be a case where a load of players are just going to say, you know what, I can't be bothered, and it ends up with teams fielding a load of reserves and third stringers and again just making it more inequitable? What would you think as a player to this? Because I mean, 3 games in college football, that's a long time to get injured and ruin your draft stock, no matter what the personal glory might be.
No, like I said, you'll get a lot of players that'll say, well, do you know what, if you make it to the semi-finals, maybe I'll play then, but I don't want to play the wildcard. How many wildcard teams in NFL history have made a Super Bowl? I bet it's not that many because they picked up injuries and they had to play more games than everyone else. And that's just going to happen here.
Yeah, fully agree. So, yeah, we don't agree with it, but hey-ho, we'll see what happens. It's not coming in until 2026, so who knows? Something might change by then. So, yeah. Chrome says, yup, exactly. I think there's a lot of agreement on this issue here. So, yeah, I don't think a lot of people are in favour of this, probably apart from the TV companies. That's really everything for the news this week. We've got a lot to go through in terms of the games, so we're going to go straight down into those pretty much. Ken Stauder goes, EMU won a tough game this weekend. Yes, they did. East Michigan played East Kentucky, if I'm right. Beat them like 44-32 or something, but good win for them. Not bad week for the Michigan sides, really, all told. So, we're going to start off this week, before we go into the games, one of the little fun sections we did during last year was the uniform watch. And for those of you who aren't accustomed to the uniform watch, Ryan here, and myself to a degree, are connoisseurs of the college uniform. They can produce some absolute bangers, and they can produce some absolute terrible ones. In the NFL, uniforms are trash. There are very few good ones around, and we like to appreciate the good uniforms at college level, and we like to throw a bit of shade at the bad ones as well. And Ryan in particular is one who keeps a close eye on this, so I'm going to pass this one over to him. Week 1, Ryan, what have you seen from the world of uniforms? Who performed well off the pitch, and who had a last-minute field goal blocked in terms of their designs for this week?
Well, we'll start off by looking at a uniform that was announced but has not been played in yet. Rice have launched their Artemis Space Edition because of the NASA launching the probe to the moon. They've decided to go on all Central Florida and created the Artemis Space ones. They're white and like chrome silver, and they have like NASA scripts and stuff on the sleeves as well. And across the back, like you say, Rice and Artemis, all in honor of this satellite that's taken off. And yeah, they look fantastic. Like I say, it's probably one of the best Rice uniforms there's ever been. I think they're in 2 weeks' time. I think they're going to use them. I can't remember who the opponent is. It might have been Texas Tech. I think that might have been the game they're saving them for, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, go look them on Twitter. They are the Rice Owls. They look really good.
Oh, they're chefs. They're chef's kiss. They are. I just want to quickly say chef's kiss. Whoever made those, you're a genius. That's already in the running for one of the best this season, I reckon.
One of the best this weekend happened, like I say, well, last night. You saw it as well. Clemson Tigers rocked this all-white uniform. No purple, but strictly white and orange. All white lowers, tops, bottoms, which they don't often do. Like I said, they had nice red accents. They looked really good. They started slow, but in the end, they won comfortably, and it looked like a really nice colour combination. I think Clemson should wear white a lot better and a lot more often than they normally do.
Oh yeah, beautiful. I agree with you there. These are teams who are not usually associated with this. I don't think we've ever had Rice in the uniform debate before, but that was beautiful. But the Clemson one, yeah, chef's kiss as well. Got to agree. That was beautiful this week. I was kind of disappointed with the quality overall. There weren't many that. There were maybe 2 or 3 that got my attention. Usually it's a lot more than that, but maybe we're saving the good ones going forward. Were there any others that caught your eye this week?
Yeah, there was one that I didn't expect. Temple. The Temple Owls had a really nice white with burgundy lowers, and it had like a white checked pattern on top. And I don't know if they're standard uniforms, but I don't know if I've seen them before. They played Duke, who also looked good. It was a red, the blue, very nice contrast. They were really nice uniforms. The team that let me down, Oregon. Just recycling the green Power Rangers again. Like say,
I thought it was
they've got new cleats, I think.
I thought it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I don't like all green. All green everything, it's just not for me. So no. But I'd like to give a special mention. Like I say, it's not college, but to CFL, the Labor Day Calgary Stampeders. I think they wore a special black, white, red with like a silver helmet uniform for their Labor Day in Canada, a very famous weekend. They had a fantastic looking uniform, and they played this weekend, so they get a special mention for football this weekend.
There you go. There you have it. You want to hear about the latest and greatest in uniforms? Come to us. We're the ones watching there. Yeah, Oregon, you did let us down a little bit this week, and UNC did as well. I'm usually raving UNC, but this week they were a little bit tame. So, yeah, decent first week for uniforms, but I think we're going to see some great ones going forward. And say this Rice one's going to be back in the conversation this week. Any more you want to get off before we head on down into the games?
No, I'd say genuinely,
yeah.
Everybody did well. Everybody looked tidy.
Yeah. Agreed. Tidy, but not out of this world. Okay, John Ball in the chat again. Another problem with college games, the out-of-conference blowout games. Should only play games in your conference. I don't know. I think there should be stricter rules on who you play out of conference. Michigan, not looking at you. Yours is absolutely atrocious this year, but there are other ones as well. But I agree. There should be some harder out-of-conference schedules for some of these teams around here because, you want to make the college football playoffs, you've got to show you can beat the good teams in there. I mean, I feel sorry for, like, the MAC teams. The MAC's out-of-conference schedules this year are horrendous. They're going to get some great tankings, but, at least they're going out there and doing it. Fair play to them. Right, so we're going to get down into the Week 1 review for proper here. So we're going to go through the 10 fixtures we had on our pick watch first, and then we can, discuss some of the other games we've got on there as well. Ryan drew first blood amongst us two this week. He ended up going 6-4 on the week. I ended up going 3-7, but some of these games were that close that I feel like I can't be criticised too much for this. Some of these A lot of them were one-score games, and a lot of them were teams who lost games really when they shouldn't have. So let's have a little go through some of these. The first one we had on the schedule, Penn State and Purdue. Ryan picked Penn State for this one. I picked Purdue. Purdue have not beaten Penn State since about 2008, 2009, and they play each other most seasons as well. But I was confident this year. Aidan O'Connell, great quarterback. Thinking the team's a lot stronger than it has been in previous years. It has home advantage in this one, but unfortunately they came up just a little bit short. And in fairness, the money line was bang on this one. Penn State were 3.5-point favourites. They ended up winning by 4. Like I say, Penn State 35, Purdue 31. Neither running game got going in this one. Penn State averaged 3 yards per carry. Purdue averaged 4.1 yards per carry. So this game was really put on the quarterbacks, the wide receivers, and the defences. And unfortunately, we know Penn State come out with some mean defences over the years, and they were able to come up clutch when it mattered, stop the potential game-winning drive there from Purdue. A few of the stats here. Purdue, Aidan O'Connell, 29 from 58 attempts, 356 yards and a touchdown. King Do-Roo, the running back, he had 15 carries for 57 yards and 2 touchdowns. Iowa transfer wide receiver Charlie Jones, he showed out big, 12 receptions, 153 yards and a touchdown. The safety Chris Jefferson led the way on defense with 7 tackles and an interception. That turned into a 72-yard pick sixes from one of the worst ever throws I've seen by a quarterback from Sean Clifford. It was horrendous. Jefferson went viral for throwing up on the sideline afterwards, and I think you brought this up on the main podcast on Monday, right? There were a lot of guys in college throwing up on the sidelines this weekend. Offensively, Purdue, 75% passing plays, 25% run plays, and they were ahead most of the game, or they weren't very far behind here. Might well have cost them, because late on when they were driving in the game and they were winning, they kept throwing the ball. They stopped running, they didn't run the clock down, and it came and bit them in the arse. They averaged 5.2 yards per play, which is 12th percentile, just 2% explosive plays, so a lot of short to mid-range offense here, and they were only 28% on third down conversion, which is 1st percentile, and in this scale, first is really, really bad. Very few teams did less well than that at the weekend. Although they were 75% in the red zone, which is ranked elite. So when they were able to get to the red zone, they usually put the points on the board. Defensively, stop rate of 51%, which is good. Half of Penn State's drives ended in no points. The havoc rate was only 5%. Clearly missing George Karlaftis. They had 3 tackles for loss, a sack and an interception. But Penn State scored in chunks. They scored 21 points in quarter 2 and 14 in quarter 4. So while the Purdue defense was good in some areas, when Penn State started scoring, they just, for some reason, couldn't deal with them. On Penn State's side, Sean Clifford, the quarterback, 20 of 37, 282 yards, 4 touchdowns, an interception and a rushing touchdown. Running, they did nothing. Mitchell Tinsley, the wide receiver, he had a good day, 7 for 84 and a touchdown. Brenton Strange, the tight end, got 2 for 77 and a touchdown. And Joey Porter Jr. on defense led the way with 8 tackles. Offensively, 58% pass, 42% run. Even though the run was not good, they still had a balanced attack, which helped them in the long run. They averaged 6.55 yards per play. That's 82nd percentile, about a full yard and a half more than Purdue per drive. And they were 44% in third down conversion, which, while still not great, was a lot better than what Purdue did. Defensively, they're pretty similar. 46% stop rate, 5% havoc rate. So really, quarterbacks weren't hassled too much this game, but they did have an extra sack and a forced fumble. And third down defense, they were elite. They really stepped up on third downs here. That little extra bit of productivity from the defense kind of won them this one. An interesting one here, right? But I mean, you've got to wonder about Purdue. You're winning, you're late on in the game, and you're just throwing the ball all the time. That's just bad tactics, and that is going to make you lose a lot of games.
Yeah, they got the balance was way off. Like there is, I don't know if Purdue are going to get a run game going this year. I know that King is very young, I know they miss Xander Horvath, the fullback tight end, who operated, like say, out in the backfield, good blocker as well, but could also be used out in the flats. He was good on short yardage and drives. I saw a lot of this game. They missed David Bell. I like Charlie Jones and he looked good, but I don't know if against the bigger, madder, meaner defenses, if he's got the crisp route running that Bell had, who always managed to be so reliable. So it's going to be, can O'Connell find someone that he can rely on permanently? I don't know. Like I say, the completion percentage was only like bang on 50%, so there was a lot of errant throws there. I was hyping up Kendall Sheffield at the start of last season, did really well. He had that very costly fumble that almost went out of bounds that got scooped up. So that was one of the game plays there. But credit where it's due. Sean Clifford, like I said, one of the commentators said he's a gamer, and he was. He was very willing in that game. He's tough, got short yardage, really good in the red zone. I think Drew Aller's going to have a really difficult time getting that job off him. And we saw a bit of their brand new freshman running back, Nick Singleton. I can't remember his 4 or 5 star. He did get only a few snaps, but was effective on those. So I think he will be someone that grows into the season. But that was a trap game for Penn State. That could have been a bad start to the year, but they'll leave it full of confidence. Their defense looked pretty good to say it's lost a bit of talent to the draft.
I mean, that third down, when you're keeping a team to 28% on third down conversions, you know, that's where your defense really earns its money on third downs, isn't it? Gets off the field, gets your offense back on. I mean, that's what we kind of knew from Penn State anyhow. And, you know, while they may have not been great on the earlier downs and that, you know, that's where they're good, isn't it? And eventually, you know, if you stop a team 75% of the time on third down, you're going to win games, really, aren't you?
Yeah, like I say, fourth down, if you don't have the gonads to go for it, it just means a lot of punting and time of possession and swings one way. Penn State had a lot of the ball because they got off on third down or they made them turn over. So, yeah, they were always behind the chains. It's back to drawing board for Purdue. Like I say, next week, O'Connell's throwing the ball 50 plus times again. I reckon they'll lose again. That balance has got to shift. And with it, his draft stock. This is a huge year for Aidan O'Connell. Purdue have got to put him in a chance to succeed. They can't just ask him to win games on his own like that.
No, and like I say, they were winning for a majority of this, or they were never more than a score behind. So you really shouldn't have a 3-to-1 pass to run ratio when you are in the game all game and you're winning in the fourth quarter. It is something that needs to be more. But I will say, Aidan O'Connell did look really good without David Bell. We did wonder whether he'd be able to make something out of another guy, Charlie Jones. He has done, so that's good. I really like Aidan O'Connell. I think already he's probably the second best quarterback in the Big Ten. I really rate him that highly. I think only CJ Stroud's better, so we'll see. But yeah, Purdue really have to book their ideas up with this one. Right, so the next one I have on the agenda. Oh, right, so we had a good Big Ten game. Now we're going to follow it up with a bad Big Ten game. And we both got bitten on this because these were two trash teams playing one another, and one just, happened to win on the day because what happens. Indiana and Illinois. Now, this is the reason why the Big Ten is so awful at the minute, because there's so many teams like this around in there. We both bet on Illinois, but I think we forgot to take into account that Illinois had obviously played week 0, and this was a Friday night game, so it's not the biggest turnaround in the world for them. They already won a game. Indiana are fresh coming into the season, and I think that showed a little bit here. There seemed to be a lot of sloppiness, a lot of tiredness from Illinois. They fumbled it 5 times, so that would indicate that there was something wrong there with them. But yeah, Indiana won this one 23 points to 20, and this was another money line winner. Indiana were favoured by 3 points. They won by 3 points, so the money line was spot on. But how did they win this game? So their post-game win expectancy was 10%. Now, post-game win expectancy, this is a stat that uses a load of metrics to go to, but this judges by how well you played a game, how well do you do during a game, and, oh God, hang on, Matt's just logged me out of, no, No, we're good. So yeah, post-game win expectancy. This is compiled by a load of stats during the game. It measures how well you play, so that by the time you get to the end of the game, it gives you a percentage of a chance you should have won a game by, basically. So Indiana's post-game win expectancy was 10%. That means, by the way these two teams played, Illinois should have won this game 9 times out of 10, given the way that they played. And Indiana came away from this one, and I don't know how they did it. But Illinois, they were their own worst enemies here. They embraced their inner Godwin Igwebuike, and they fumbled the ball 5 times. They lost it 4 of those times. Indiana, they were not great offensively, but basically they got given so many chances to score that eventually they were just able to take some of them. On Illinois' side, Tommy DeVito, the quarterback, 21 of 35 for 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception. He also fumbled the ball and lost it. The running back, Chase Brown, 36 carries for 199 yards, got 6 receiving yards, so he had 200 all-plus purpose yards on the day, fumbled it twice. Only lost one of them though, one was recovered by Illinois. The wide receiver Isaiah Williams went 9 receptions for 112 yards and a touchdown. But offensively this was bad for both teams. So Illinois averaged 5.23 yards per play, which is 12th percentile. Explosive play rate was just 6%, so very few splash plays. In the red zone, get this right, they had a conversion rate of 19%. In the red zone. So 1 in every 5 drives in the red zone ended in points. That's 0 percentile. That's how bad it was. The only place they did well was in third down conversion, weirdly enough, where they were 50%, which is pretty much elite. So this was just weird all over the board. The defense was good, given that it was put into a lot of difficult situations from the fumbling. Obviously 4 turnovers, your defense is put into some nasty situations. Stop rate of 51%, completely obliterated Indiana's run game, and they had a havoc rate of 10%, so 6 tackles for loss, a sack, they had an interception, they had a forced fumble. So this defense really stood up and tried their best to let Illinois win this one. On Indiana's side, the quarterback Connor Bazelak, still not sold on this guy, but had a decent game, 28 of 52, 330 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Their run game, get this, averaged 1.84 yards per carry. That's 1.84. Less than 2 yards per carry during the whole game. It should be illegal to win a game if you can't carry the ball for more than 2 yards on average, in my humble opinion. Wide receivers though, they had a field day. Cam Camper, 11 for 156 yards, and DJ Matthews, 7 for 109 and a touchdown. Cam Jones, the linebacker, led their tacklers. He had 12 varied tackles and he had a sack as well. Offensively, 5.12 yards per play, which was even less than Illinois. Explosive play rate was 6%, which was the same, but they were better on third downs and red zone efficiency. Defense won them the game with turnovers. They had a 61% stop rate, so that's only 2 in 5 Illinois drives ending in points. The havoc rate was 14%. 10 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, an interception, 2 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries. So the turnover luck in this game, so what turnover luck is how many points turnovers create for you over the course of a game. So like one team will be in plus figures, one team will be in minus figures. Turnover luck accounted for 15 of Indiana's 23 points. So because of the turnovers, Indiana scored 15 of the 23. I mean, Christ on a bike, Ryan. This is the reason why the Big Ten does get panned the way it does. Some awful teams in here, and these were 2 awful teams, and one just out-awful the other.
I mean, the only thing I can say is that the Indiana defense was fantastic. If you come out of a game with like +3 or 4, +4 turnover margin, you've won the game. If you have a player like Brown, who is currently the leading rusher in the nation, like I said, Illinois have got the best running back in the nation right now with like 320 yards currently on the season. If he can go over 200 yards on the day and you're terrible in the red zone, that tells me that the play calling must have been dreadful. What are you doing once you get outside the 20s? In between the 20s, you're doing all the hard work, but when you get down to where the field is condensed, you're calling crappy plays. You're calling it a shit game. Like I say, if you're not converting all that yardage into points, it's just meaningless. So they fully deserve to lose. I hope they hang their heads in shame when they look how much they dominated on sides of the ball, but how bad they were with ball security. If Indiana do that every game of the season, they will lose every game of the season, no matter how many yards they rack up. If you cough up the ball and fumbles 5 times, law of averages says you're going to lose probably at least half of them.
Yeah, exactly. You know, John Ball surmises it great in the YouTube chat. He says, was a game of who could screw up by more and win by default. You're absolutely right. Who could screw up more? It was not one. It was one for the purists, maybe. The defensive gurus would have loved that. The DCs are going to go into the head coach's office Monday morning and get a big old pat on the back for how these two teams did here. But the offensive coordinators, they're probably going to get dressed down like the naughty child in class and, you know, really reprimanded for it. I mean, good God, this was not pretty. And like I say, Indiana's post, you're right, Ryan, if they play like that again, they will lose most of the games. When your post-game win expectancy is 10%, you don't win football games. You just don't. That's how bad it is. But this week, I mean, God, there were just some outliers here. I mean, this wasn't even the worst post-game win expectancy team that won a game. Old Dominion did it on 1%.
It was a great game.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a bit. But Old Dominion beat Virginia Tech this week, and their post-game win expectancy was 1%. So they were, by the way they played in that game, the metrics said they could have won that game one time in 100. And they won that game one time in 100. It's unreal, but we'll have a chat about that later. Let's get on to something and a little bit different here. And, you know, you were the guy who panned Notre Dame a lot last season. I kind of tried to be a little bit nicer to them. Well, I here went and bet on them last week on the Pick Watch. I said Notre Dame can cause the upset against Ohio State here, and I think they'll be able to do something against them. Could they hell? And I mean, this wasn't even like the defense was really damn good for Notre Dame in this game, but Tyler Buchner and that offense were dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. And I know you're going to come on and say here, I told you so, and you're right. You did tell us. Tyler Buchner ain't it for Notre Dame. I agree with you fully now. The jury was out, but for me, it's case closed. So, I mean, I was right on from this perspective where I didn't think OSU would cover. Ohio State were 17-point favourites for this game. They ended up winning 21 points to 10, so they only covered by 11. Now, Notre Dame started off hot, and the defence played admirably well, but Ohio State, in the end, they wore them down and they took over, and the Notre Dame offence folded like a wet paper plate. They had 20% of their total offence in this entire game on their first offensive play of the game. That kind of just sums out. When 20% of your total offense in a game comes from one play, unless it's like a 100-yard return or a 100-yard touchdown pass or something, there's something really wrong with you. I think it was only about 40 yards, 49 yards. So this wants to say, so Notre Dame, quarterback Tyler Buchner, 10 of 18 for 177 yards. No interceptions, no touchdowns. He was 11 for 18 rushing, so about like 1.5 yards per rush. The running game, 3.52 yards per carry on average, so very little to show for this. In the passing game, Michael Mayer, the outstanding tight end there, he had 5 catches, but just for 32 yards. And this offense really got stifled, but I will give credit where it's due here. Ohio State's special teams, this was a chef's kiss for them. They had a wonderful game. They pinned Notre Dame so far back. The average starting position for Notre Dame drives in this game was on their own 18. That's how far back they were getting pinned all the time. That means Ohio State could load up against the run and then bring the pressure on Buchner when they got to third down. And it was just, you know, copy and paste all the time. Defensively, they did what they could. So the stop rate was only 35%. But they had a 10% havoc rate, 5 tackles for loss, a sack. They were on the field for a very long time, and Travion Henderson and Miam Williams eventually just ground them down. And when they did, CJ Stroud took over when the defense got tired, started making some really good passes in fairness to him. One note from this, Brandon Joseph, the safety, absolutely flattened Jackson Smith and Jigba in this one and took him out of the game. He's injured, I believe. He might be back for this week, JSM, but he might not be either. I think it's a hamstring injury, but the hit on him was heavy. On the Ohio State side, CJ Stroud, 24 of 34, 223 yards and 2 touchdowns. Travion Henderson and Mian Williams, they combined for 175 rushing yards at 6 yards per carry, which is really good. Williams got himself a touchdown as well. In Jackson Smith and Jigba's absence, a new guy emerged for Ohio State, the latest on the line of 5-star receivers they've got there. Emeka Egbuka. He was the number 1 receiver in the 2021 class. Last year he was a special teams guy. He was the top returner in the Big 12 on kick returns. I think he averaged 29 yards per return. He got his chance in the team this year. He had 9 receptions for 90 yards and a touchdown. The linebacker Tommy Eichenberg, that's the brother of former Notre Dame offensive lineman Tommy, he had 9 tackles and 2 sacks on the day. He absolutely wrecked the ND offensive line. The offense was methodical. It wasn't explosive, which is weird for them. 62% of their runs went for 4 yards or more. They just broke the spine of Notre Dame running the ball, really. And the next group of receivers stepped up for JSN in his absence. The defense was clinical. Now, obviously they were helped by special teams pinning Notre Dame so far back, but they had a 22% defensive run stop rate. They had a 71% drive stop rate, so 7 in every 10 drives, no points for Notre Dame, and a 19% havoc rate, nearly 20%, 6 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. So basically a combination stuffing the run, then pressuring Buchner till he broke, meant most drives ended without points for Notre Dame. I was really disappointed with Notre Dame in this one. I thought they started hot, but that offense was garbage.
I mean, I was disappointed by both sides. I was really disappointed in the game in general. Travion Henderson, he barely made an appearance till the third quarter. I barely remember him even touching the ball in the first half of anything meaningful. That D-line for Notre Dame held up really well in the first half. We saw the likes of Foskey flash up, one of the hot names in the nation right now. Like I said, the linebackers were good. Secondary, really solid. Like I say, they put in the first half they put a clamp on. Like I say, it wasn't until the third and fourth quarter where it was comfortable for Ohio State. They were never comfortable in that game in the first half. Marcus Freeman and his coordinators called a really good game, I thought. Offensively, they tried to do things, but you just couldn't. Like I said, Tyler Buchner had no time on the ball. Offensive line did not hold up very well. And when it did, receivers just weren't getting open. Like I say, he just had very little options. And like I say, Kyron Williams now gone. Run game, non-existent. I don't know who's going to run the ball for Notre Dame this year. That is a worry for me. You've got a young quarterback, very inexperienced. He didn't have a run game to help him, and it was against a pretty ferocious defense. So week 1, it was just a recipe for disaster. Look, like I said, didn't get hurt, but I agree. I don't know if any of this is just too big for Tyler. He may show confidence against some of the smaller teams, but that was the big stage. It was too much too soon for him. But there's also no one behind him. There's just young kids behind him as well, aren't there? Because Jack Cohn's gone now. So going forward, they're going to have to find some way to get confidence, and maybe if that means against some of the smaller teams. But yeah, looking at their schedule, like you said, there's going to be times where he is going to be on big stages, and he's going to need to probably pull his socks up a little bit and get out of the bright lights.
Yeah, I mean, people might say we've been too harsh to playing Ohio State week 1. It's not an easy game, but Notre Dame consider themselves a big school. They want 10 million odd a year for their 70 odd million a year for their TV rights. You want to be a big deal. You've got to show up in these big games and perform. And like I say, I'll give Ohio State special teams here, just to be able to pin them back so consistently just allowed them to dictate this game. And it was really good from them. But I'm with you. I was not impressed with CJ Stroud. Everyone's showing the throw to the sideline, the one it was just the one. They're not showing really much else from that. It's like what we're seeing with Anthony Richardson this week. We're seeing the pump fake all week. But you've got to see the entire game to show what they're going. And I was not impressed one bit. He was able to do what he was, but it was just because Notre Dame's defense got tired. Because they were on the field that much. Because the offense couldn't get out of these holes they were put in. They straight back on the field. They got worn down. You can see at 6 yards per carry, the running backs just eventually broke them, and that's how they won this game. But fair play to Ohio State. tough first week for them. They won. Notre Dame, a lot to work on there. Our first real shocker here. Me and you both got this one wrong. This is the Army Black Knights versus the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Me and you both backed Army. We said that they would break them with the run, that the physicality might be too much for a pretty much fully new Coastal team this year. They lost a lot of players going forward, but for some reason it just didn't happen. Now, I've got a few questions I'm going to ask you about this one, and just to see where things went wrong with this. But I'm going to start with an easy one. One of the teams passed the ball 25% of the time and ran the ball 75% of the time. Which team do you think that was?
Coastal Carolina.
Oh, god damn it, you meant to say Army. They're the triple option side. Yeah. Coastal Carolina.
I guessed it was a trick question. Yeah, they actually got a run game going.
I thought, the whole point was it's a few questions. I'm going to hit you up with the easy one first and you're going to fall for it. But no, damn it, I fell big time there. So me and you wondered whether Coastal could deal with the physical nature of the game. Well, they flipped the script and they beat Army at their own game here. It was quite something to see, and you know what? Round of applause for Coastal Carolina for this one. So like I say, it was 28-38. Grayson McCall, you assume he will pass the ball a lot. He is a pass-heavy quarterback. Coastal passed the ball a lot. We said that in recent years the run game has been their issue, and we kind of assumed it was going to be the same this year. He's one of the few seniors coming back, the focal point of the team. They're going to pass it a lot because they're going to use his strengths. Well, they threw the ball 17 times. They ran the ball 52 times. When has a Coastal side ever passed it 17 and ran it 52? Well, I can't tell you offhand, but I'm going to guess it's been many, many a year. I reckon they might never have done that before. Coastal got more rushing yards by nearly 50, and this is against a triple threat Army side who are really good and run the ball really well. Probably one of the best service teams out there at the minute. But, Army's offense, really good in this game. 7.42 yards per play Army had, which is 98th percentile. They had a 15% explosive play rate, which is 100th percentile, and the red zone success was 44%, which is 73rd percentile. So the offense did really well for them. They struggled on third down conversions at 36%, but the fourth down conversions were pretty decent for them. The defense really let Army down here. A 10% drive stop rate, a 10% run stop rate, and a 1% havoc rate, so they could not stop Coastal from scoring on every drive, pretty much. They could not stop the run, and they could not get in the backfield to go after Grayson McCall either, which is weird because they've got Andre Carter on that team, and he lived in opposition backfields last year, but he was dead quiet in this one. Coastal, their offense was the strength in this game. 54% of their rushing attempts went for more than 4 yards. So they ran the ball incredibly well, and Grayson just had to mop up. On Army's side, Terrell Robinson was the standout running back with 9 carries for 135 yards and a touchdown. That was an average of 15 yards per carry for him. And on Coastal Carolina's side, Reese White got 133 yards and a touchdown off 21 carries. But I mean, Ryan, if you were... Let's rewind back a week here. If I'd have said to you last week that Coastal were going to 3-1 run the ball over pass it, you would have probably tried to have me committed, wouldn't you?
If anything, I thought Army would have wanted that. Army would have wanted them to run the ball all the time and not throw it because they get picked off by the pass. They don't have the best defensive backs or the strongest secondary, so you thought that would have played into the hand, but them getting gashed by the run is quite worrying for an Army side that prides itself on physicality line scrimmage. Like I say, Andre Carter didn't do anything. One of the most highly touted, one of the biggest, strongest defensive linemen in the nation that people think is going to go highly in the draft was basically neutralised. A team that I did not expect to be able to stop him.
No, I mean, Christ knows what Coastal Carolina have done to that offensive line, but jeez, it just utterly dominated this service side. I mean, all I'm going to say is fair play to Coastal. We now know that they have that in the bag. If you're saying they're going to come up against a tough team on a weekend, well, I'm like, well, they've shown that they can run the ball, and Grayson McCall's not even got started yet, so maybe that we're going to have to reassess what we think about Coastal Carolina this year. But you know what? Fair play to them. 38-28 point winners over Army. Great start to the season for them. Hell, they could make a run for the Sun Belt title now. I think that's really in play if they're going to blast Army aside this easily. So, yeah, well done to Coastal for that one. The next one, we were both right on this one, and it's the one that Ashley Soden has been waiting for. LSU, Florida State. We both didn't believe in LSU, despite Ash thinking that we would. We believed that Florida State would be able to put the win over them on this one, and they did. Only just, but they did. 24-23 this one ended, and it ended on a blocked field goal because Brian Kelly is a coward who didn't want to go for 2 points to win the game, and I know you'll agree with me on this one. You're in college level, go for the 2 points, go for the win. Don't go for overtime, you coward, and you got what you deserved. But, it's hard, it's hard to say that Florida State are not looking really good here this year. So obviously they absolutely wiped Duquesne week 0. And, coming into this game, they're confident, they've got this, starts going, the running game looked good, the defense looked really good. Could they cause the upset, which technically was an upset, and yeah, they did. So, and this was really weird because the run game that destroyed Duquesne was kept in check in this game. They only went at 3.5 yards per carry, which is not great. So a lot more of the work was put on Jordan Travis's arm this week, and fair enough to him, he responded. He went 20 of 32 for 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks so far this season. Ontario Wilson, the wide receiver, he really showed up. 7 receptions, 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the FCS transfer, Jared Verse, this is a guy who I've fallen in love with very, very quickly at this level. He just looks like an absolute monster. He had another 2 sacks this week. And to say that he is now the father of the LSU left tackle from this game is not a stretch. Jared Verse is now a dad after this game because that left tackle could not deal with him. The defense from Florida State was aggressive. They had an 11% havoc rate, which included 7 tackles for loss and 4 sacks, as they just went to work on Jaden Daniels. Now, LSU looked toothless for the most part. 13 of the 23 points came in quarter 4, so they only got 10 points in the opening 3 quarters. I mean, Jaden Daniels, he's your former quarterback. You know about him a little bit, Ryan. He looked alright. He had a ton on the ground and about 200 in the air, 209 yards and 2 touchdowns when passing. Jeray Jenkins got both of those passing touchdowns, but Keishon Butte was a passenger. We said that he would be the key to this game, and he had 2 catches for 20 yards, and he's meant to be one of the best receivers in the nation. Florida State nullified him, and they just had their way with him in this one.
Yeah, I did not enjoy the game at all. Not gonna lie, it just wasn't very fun to watch.
Yeah,
I'd say there are people that say FSU aren't back because LSU are trash. One of those is correct. LSU are trash. Brian Kelly was a poor hire. Don't like the bloke, never have done. LSU are in for a really rough season. Keishon Butte, there's reports that he's done. He's had enough. He's ready to put his name in the portal and sit the rest of the season. He's wiped his Instagram, apparently. I don't know if it's back. Like say he doesn't want what to do. He realises that LSU are going to murder any stock he's got going pro. But he also sounds like he's a really spoiled brat. And he looks like a really awful kid or hard to look after. So it's just a disaster. Like I say, Jaden Daniels, I told everyone, like I say, he wants to play with the big boys. He wants to jump up to the big leagues and leave the Pac-12. I get he was unhappy, but you're getting a bang average quarterback, and he got very average play from him. End of the day, they did not trust him to go for that 2-point conversion. They went to kick it and go overtime because Brian Kelly's a pussy, and it bit them in the ass. Like I say, end of the day, if you go for 2 points and you miss, you still lose by the same score. So what's the difference to a blocked extra point? There isn't there. There's no other point. Just go for it. Like I said, that last drive from FSU really worried me. How they were allowed to go 99 yards from them fumbling at their 1 in 1 minute and 5 seconds. They absolutely toasted them, and that is worrying for Seminoles. They were so lucky that they didn't blow that. So yeah, LSU snatched defeat from the jaws of victory because they just were not clinical enough. So yeah,
no, and wait,
great to know. FSU 2-0. Jordan Trappist looked fine. Jeremy Robinson, Jared Verse looked good. They couldn't have asked for a better start to the season. They will play much harder games. I thought they'd be comfortably 2-0, and they've proved me right. So that's why I'm praising them. Ash must be happy here. They've done their job so far. There's harder games to come, but they avoided a trap. LSU, I don't know where. There's going to be some ugly points this year. There's going to be some fallouts as well. I think this marriage of Brian Kelly will end ugly in just 1 year. I think he'll be fired by the end of the season.
And I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? LSU are a national program. They expect to win games. When you're LSU, you don't go for 1 point attempts to try and get overtime against Florida State. You go for broke. You go for 2. That's how you win. You really put teams to the sword and just make a statement. And he didn't want to do that. Everyone seems to have turned against him. There was the press conference where the reporter turned up late and said, well, maybe if you win games, I'll turn up on time. And it's just like, that made me laugh. I'm not going to have to lie. He's lost that room. But, I mean, yeah, the Seminoles look good. That defense, I will say, looks really good. They were all worried about what would happen when Jermaine Johnson left last season. But, I mean, Christ, I don't know who found Jared Verse in Albany. And I don't know what Jared Verse was doing at Albany. But he already looks like one of the most dominant linemen in the ACC at the minute, really. And possibly by the end of the season if he carries on going in college football. I mean, he just looks an absolute monster. And Ash, I know we spoke a lot of good, and you know I'm going to hate this, but that Ali Gay headbutt on Jordan Travis did make me laugh a little bit, where he just goes up and full on nuts him. And yeah, we shouldn't see that in the game and everything, but it was just funny. But I know he's apologised to him, and it's all out of the ground now. But yeah, Florida State, let's see how they do now. They've got some ACC fixtures coming up on the horizon, and it's a very tough league this year, so let's see how they get on with that. But well done, Ash. 2 wins in a row. Hopefully this carries on going for you. So that game did not get into overtime, but our next game did get into overtime. In fact, it went 3 lots of overtime, and me and you verged on this one, and unfortunately this was yet another one you won. Houston and UTSA. Houston travelled to the University of Texas San Antonio on the road, and they came away with a very impressive 37-35 victory. It was decided by 2-point conversions in overtime 3, because they just could not be separated between them. That included a second overtime where they both scored a touchdown and converted 2 points. You just really couldn't separate these two, but hell of a really good game here. UTSA missed Sincere McCormack. I'm just going to say that outright here. They did not look good in the run game. Outside of Frank Harris on a few designated runs, this is where they lost the game, because they could not run the football, and they got into a shootout in the end. And if you're going to get into a shootout with Clayton Tune and Houston, you need to bring out big guns, because this is a team that love to get in shootouts and eat shootouts for breakfast, and will come out on top the vast majority of the times, even if the stat lines don't really show it this week. So on UTSA's side, Frank Harris had a really good week at quarterback. I think he's the best quarterback in the CUSA, and this has just increased that. 28 of 43, 337 yards, 3 touchdowns, just 1 interception, and he went 8 for 63 on the ground with a rushing touchdown. He was the leading rusher on UTSA's side at 63 yards. Outside of Harris, the ground game, 20 carries for 41 yards. That just shows how far they've come down from Sincere McCormack. 20 carries with him will get you about 200 yards. In the receiving game, Joshua Cephas, not related to our own Quintez, 7 for 106 and a touchdown. Zachary Franklin, 10 for 100. And Decorian Clark, 6 for 70 and 2 touchdowns as the wide receiver groups fed. The defense struggled. They let Houston convert 57% of third downs, which is 100 percentile for Houston. It's 0 percentile in terms of your third down defense. The run stuff rate was 6%. The havoc rate was 5%, which are both 0 percentile. and all the havoc plays came against the passing game as well. They had no success against the run game whatsoever. On Houston's side, Clayton Tune, the quarterback, 22 of 32, 206 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was 15 for 51 on the ground with a touchdown. He was also the leading rusher on his team, but they had more guys who contributed a little bit more. Outside of Tune, the Houston only averaged 3 yards per carry, so kind of was a bit of a bad day for running in this one. Nathaniel Dell, one of the best receivers probably in college football at the minute, he got his season off and going. He had 5 receptions for 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hell of a fun game, this one, Ryan, but you know, UTSA's bread and butter last year was the run game, which helped burn clock, keep teams' offenses off the pitch. You saw what happens this year when you don't have a Sincere McCormack to help you, despite the fact you put up 35 points.
Yeah, they were always playing catch-up for me to manage to catch this, and I never felt in overtime they'd win. I always felt that when Houston got the ball, if they wanted to score, they could. Clayton Tune as well, his rushing touchdown, people go watch it. He is not a mobile guy, and he's fairly big, but he did a forward flip into the end zone, like before to your point, and it was a really athletic, broken play. It was not a designed run at all. But he got to the edge, somersaulted in, and he looked really good. He's going to be one of the most underrated QB season, I think. He has put together a pretty mammoth career at Houston so far, and yeah, they don't do things easily though, Houston. Like I said, their defense went to sleep. The defensive front were really good, but they couldn't, Franco, like I say, the quarterback. Like I say, they did well against the run, but like I say, when you're trying to keep a QB in between the tackles and not flush him out, they just didn't do it. They could not keep him contained. He was sidestepping guys in the open field. He was running through tackles. They need to work on that, playing contain against a mobile quarterback. Otherwise, they're going to get gashed all year. But no, they escaped one there with superior offense. In the end, they came up lucky.
You know what I will say though, Frank Harris looked really damn good in this. I know they've got no running game in here, but you know, he could be, I'm not saying he'll get drafted, but he could be a sleeper to end up on elite, you know, in a team in the NFL somewhere. I think there's just too much about his game which is translatable to the next level. So, you know, he had a really good game. Nathaniel Dell, you know what you're getting with him. He's going to have a hell of a year. I mean, what's his draft ceiling? He could potentially go quite early, surely, with the level of productivity he's had at college.
Yeah. He's also got that in his back pocket if he wants to be a special returner. He can do. Like Marcus Jones, the cornerback, left Houston to draft last year. I think Dell will probably take over some special teams duties this year as well. So he's someone that he's a gadget, like I say. You'll find the role for him at the next level. It's going to be another receiver heavy draft. So he's going to have to find his Clayton Tune's best friend, and has been for the last few years.
Yeah, he's going to have to hope they can go to an ACC championship maybe and really get on a stage for him to show out in front of the scouts. But I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. Like you say, special teams, he'll get there really quickly with somebody who'll take him. So good for him. Now, the team I'm really miffed with this week. They really, really screwed their game up, and they screwed our prediction up as well because we bet for them. Utah. Now, we both said Utah, we're going to go to Florida and we're going to beat Florida, despite Anthony Richardson been there and been the quarterback. We said Utah had too much for them there. But did they, heck? They really, really screwed this game up, and this is not throwing any shade at Florida, but Utah should have won this game. Florida won this game by default, and I will stand and die on that hill there. Ended 29-26. So they did not take advantage in this game. Anthony Richardson came up and eventually ended up stealing the show. And you know what? There's been a lot of hype about him this week. I like him. I ain't going to get carried away like a lot of the other people are. And I know you, Ryan, are like kind of just slowing the brakes on this at the minute. But this could really screw up Utah's season. People were saying Utah might be outsiders for the college football playoffs. But they've now lost this game against Florida, and given that Oregon got absolutely whooped at Georgia, kind of a win over Oregon is not going to carry the same weight with the College Football Playoff Committee when it comes round. So they could run their schedule to the end of the season now, and they still might not get in. Their chances could realistically be over already. So Utah's side, Cameron Rising, the quarterback, 22 of 32, 216 yards, a touchdown, an interception, 7 for 91 on the ground. So he rushed the ball actually really well, and I never thought he was a dual threat guy, but I'm starting to think that he actually is. Tavion Thomas, the running back, 23 carries for 115 yards and a touchdown. Brant Keithy, the tight end, had himself a day. He got a touchdown. He had 9 in receptions. I've put 15 yards here, but I'm pretty sure it's 150 yards that he had and a touchdown. Yeah, it is. I just missed the number out. But yeah, he had a really good day and looked damn good. So the offense really let the side down here. So Utah had 7 scoring opportunities in this game, and what a scoring opportunity is defined as is a drive that enters the opponent's 40. So if you get in the opponent's 40-yard line, your drive becomes a scoring opportunity. They had 7 scoring opportunities in this game. They averaged just 3.8 points per drive. So you've had 7 opportunities in the opponent's 40, and you're averaging a field goal every trip there. This includes, get this, 2 first and goal situations. Twice they were first and goal. Do you know how many points they got combined from those 2 drives? 0. They got 2 first and goal situations, and they got 0 points. 7 scoring opportunities, 3.8 points per drive. That is unexcusable. On Florida's side, Anthony Richardson, he had a decent day. 17 of 24 for 168 yards. On the ground, 11 carries, 106 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he basically averaged 10 yards per carry and a touchdown every 4 touches. He was lethal in the running game here for them, and he made some nice passes as well. He had a good start to the season. They rushed at 7.23 yards per carry on the ground, so the run game very effective. I don't know if you saw him out there, but Travis Etienne's younger brother Trevor plays for them. He had 5 carries for 64 yards, so over 12 yards a carry for him. And your former wide receiver Ricky Pearsall, he led receivers there, 4 receptions for 67 yards. But I mean, I am so angry with Utah in this one. Florida did not win this game. Utah lost it. And that is a statement that is as true as it will ever be. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah. Like, those drives at first and goal, coughing the ball up. Like I said, the ball security, that was furious. Like I said, they had so many to go at the goal line, and then they coughed the ball up. Like I said, that was a killer drive. And I don't know if anyone's missed this, but Utah, God, they missed Devin Lloyd. That was the biggest thing I took from this game. Florida gashed them through the middle. If Devin Lloyd was in the middle there, I think they win this game. They have not replaced him. I worry about the defense. It's lost a very key figure. Anthony Richardson had a really good game. Now, the spin move, did everyone notice that a guy had a free shot at him and chose not to tackle him?
Yeah.
Everyone was talking about it. He chose not to hit him. He was scared of getting a penalty. Fuck that. Fucking plough him and take the penalty. Don't run at him, then stop and try to block the ball, because that's that play led to a touchdown that ended the game. Like you said, just go through him. I don't care if you get penalised and they get a first and goal at the 1. He could have ended that play and won the game for them, but he bottled it. So that play really pissed me off. That was your chance to stop him. He looks good. People like say, stop mocking him to the Lions, though. Like, that is a bit too rich for my blood. But I will say that I'll cover all the rest of the names, but I did put Ricky Pearsall on my playlist to watch. This was 2 weeks ago. He was Arizona State's biggest target for the last 2 years. I knew full well Anthony Richardson would love him. I knew he was going to do good in this game before I even took a snap. He's wearing number 1, for God's sake. You only do that if you're a cocky, arrogant little twat. And he is. He's fast, he's athletic, silky, and he looked good. He made some really clutch grabs. He kept some drives alive, snagging some good balls. And you know what? I think Florida, they could be decent this year. They did not deserve to win this game. Oregon, I don't like it saying, Utah let them slip. They let them off the hook. They had them. they'll be shooting themselves, I agree, because this, I think, blows any chance at a playoff now. It doesn't matter what they do now. They'll look at this game and think, couldn't beat an average Florida side, don't deserve to be there if they win the Pac-12. Yeah, it was a really up and down game, and it was messy.
Ash goes, no, throw shade at Florida in the Twitch chat. Yeah, and I'm not surprised that Ash would want us to throw shade at Florida. And I think Ash has taken your words literally here. He's gone, biggest target, how big is the so-and-so? Because we took Johnny Wilson from you and he's 6'7". I imagine Ricky Pearsall's not that tall, but I guess by biggest target you mean most important.
Oh yeah. I will predict that he will get the most catches, the most yards. He will become Anthony Richardson's biggest thing. He's only 6'1", but he led receptions at Arizona State for years, and he's already a leading receiver after a week.
Yeah, no, I agree. Ken goes, how do you guys keep up on so many games players? The amount you're fouling is serious. Oh, well, thank you. This takes a lot of effort. This takes me like a day to prepare doing this, but I watch a lot of these games as well, so it helps when it's in the back of your mind as well. You can keep the ones you've watched in the back of your mind and write notes on the ones you didn't see, but we just like to be thorough. We like to let you know what's going on in the world of college football. Ash did that earlier. I forgot to thank him for this. He actually clarified the last time Coastal ran the ball more times than 52 attempts was week 9 in 2020, so it was only 2 years ago. They ran the ball against Texas State 56 times, so this is just me not remembering Coastal very well, so hey ho. Right, the next one, actually the title of our show today, and Ryan, you can sit back very smugly with your arms folded here because you predicted this when we talked about UNC and Appalachian State this year. Your words, because I was watching the podcast back again the other day, this is going to be a shootout. And fair enough, you used like the score 40-35 or something like that, but you said this is going to be two teams just absolutely leathering it at one another. The passing yards, the rushing's going to go crazy. Well, you were 100% right. This was what I've coined the devastation in Appalachian. Oh no, I know it's Appalachian, but still, shut up. It's my title. I'm going to use it that way. So yeah, the devastation in Appalachian. This ended up, where are we? 63-61 in favour of UNC. This game was crazy. There were two 2-point attempts that Appalachian State missed. One of them was wide open that Chase Bryce missed, and that could have taken them through there. There was a special teams play where UNC absolutely leathered the Appalachian State special teams. There were like 4 guys in a row who got pancaked. They returned it for a touchdown. The young guy got stars in his eyes and thought, I'm going to go in for the special teams touchdown, when he should have ran the ball out of play. What happens? Appalachian State get the ball. 2 plays later, they're in the end zone. It goes to another 2-point conversion in this one. I mean, God, this was just absolutely crazy. This was 124 points scored in this game. Now, I'm going to give absolutely no shout out to either defense here. This is a game where your 2 defensive coordinators are going to get frog marched into the head coach's office on a Monday morning and asked, what in God's name was that performance? So we're only going to be nice about the offenses here. So get this right. Offensive production in this game: UNC 591 yards, Appalachian State 650 yards. That's over 1,200 yards of offense in this game. UNC average yards per play 8.10, Appalachian State 7.3. I mean, you look at all the offensive stats here, the success rate of the plays, explosive play rate, third down success rate, red zone success rate, everything on both sides from both teams is 100th percentile. UNC 100th percentile in success rate, explosive play rate, third down success rate, red zone success rate. Their red zone success rate was 88%. The only thing of Appalachian State's that wasn't in like the 90th percentile of stats was their red zone success rate. It was only 38%. But that's because they threw most of their passes from like 30-40 yards out. Obviously the defenses, everything pretty much was 5th percentile or worse. Chase Bryce on the Appalachian State side, 25 of 38, 361 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. The running game, Nate Noel, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cameron Peoples, 65 yards, 1 touchdown. Receivers, well, there were about 6 receivers on App State's team who had more than 40 yards and going upwards. It was just absolutely crazy. On UNC's side, Drake May, who I must say is looking really good this year. I know you were lukewarm on him last week, but I think we're witnessing the start of potentially something special here. He went 24 of 36, 352 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had 76 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Receivers, 92 yards and a touchdown for Kobe Pacer. JJ Jones, 69 yards, touchdown. Bryson Nesbitt, 47 yards and a touchdown. Josh Downs wasn't playing in this game. I've no idea where he was. He must have been injured, but he wasn't on the field. But I ain't talking about defense here. I'm talking about straight up offense. I mean, Christ on a bike. This was what's greater than a gunslinging match. Whatever this is like chucking nuclear bombs at one another or something like that. That's what this sort of thing is. This is bringing 20 guns to a knife fight on both sides. It was crazy.
To be honest, this was like shooting fish in a barrel of a shotgun. It was just, like I said, there was no stopping it. It was awful. I kind of hated it, even though it was fun to watch. I just wanted someone to stand up and make a fucking defensive play. Like I said, it was pathetic. Absolutely pathetic from both sides. And I am sad to say that I named a UNC defender in my pre-season team to watch. And he did not play very well, like you say, so it was ugly. I'm still not convinced by Drake May either. Like I said, a team that played absolutely no defense whatsoever. Of course he shredded them. Like I said, he looked good moving the ball around because no one challenged him. Like the UNC offensive line is usually 5 turnstiles, but they didn't do anything to harass it, did they? Both offensive lines literally just had their way. They just formed a little protective shield, like one of those Roman Trojans. There were no one getting to the quarterback. It was just crazy. And the end of the game, in the end, I didn't feel sorry for App State. They had chances to win it. Why on earth UNC decided to go for an onside kick and return it and give them a chance at the ball? They could have nailed that game out. That game should have been nailed out because there was only 2 timeouts left, but 50 seconds. They could have taken them, and UNC could have still nailed the game out in the first down. They gave them a chance, and that, to me, I question Matt Brown, and I question those calls at the end of the game. Why were they trying to rub their nose in it, running the points up? It almost cost them very dearly. So, yeah, but UNC, like I say, got lucky. Chase Bryce, don't know what he was playing at, I don't know what he saw, but he missed a wide open receiver coming out of the flat. Could have took the 2 points on the second chance. Didn't in the end, fell short. Like I say, it was a sickening game to lose. But in the end, I think you just got a sigh of breath of relief to see you got over the line. But I can't imagine either team was that happy with their performance.
No. Certainly no defender on that pitch can claim to it's like, when at the end where they're celebrating a block or something and they're there, taunting and stuff, and you're like, mate, what are you taunting about? You've given up 60 points and you're there because you've got 1 stop. It's like, give over. Hang your head in shame and just be like, admit that you've had a bad one.
I read a fun stat. This is the first time in college football history a team has scored 60 points or lost, and a team has scored 7 or less without scoring a touchdown has won. Those 2 things have never happened. That is pretty amazing.
I mean, Army would have been close to that. Didn't Army get 58 against Wake Forest last year? Was it 58? They'll have been very close to having that record. But yeah, I mean, God, this was just...
We're not talking about the other game. I don't want to talk about the other game because it was so bad.
Oh well, that's on the. We can. We've got to mention it, just even very briefly. You've upset Ash because she said Roman Trojans and they're 2 different things. But carry on upsetting Ash. It's fine. Don't care. We've been nice to him. We've been nice to him a lot this episode. So there we go. So it's fun to watch. If you want to go back and watch it, I believe the whole game's on YouTube. The Devastation in Appalachian. It was a fun game, but yeah, there are going to be some people really getting their heads wobbled this week by their head coaches for such bad performances. Next, we've got 2 left, and I got this one really wrong. This was my one blowout loss this week, and who says stepping up from the FCS to the FBS is a big leap? Because James Madison would have you believe that it is not an issue whatsoever. People are like, oh, they're coming up from the FCS, they've lost all their players. This was me, by the way. They've lost all the players, they're making the step up, they're coming up against not the greatest Middle Tennessee team in the world, but they're experienced, they're savvy, they've got players who've played at this level before, they've got the nous. Are they going to be able to deal with it? Yeah, they were able to deal with this on their home pitch. They blew them out. I didn't mean they just beat them, they blew them out. This was 44-7 in James Madison's favour, and round of applause, James Madison. I mean, you could not ask for a better debut in the FBS, and Ryan is sat there with a smug grin on his face because he said this would happen, and he's been following FCS football. He knows how good James Madison are, and they just came through for him here. I mean, the James Madison stats: Todd Centeio, the quarterback, I'm 99% certain he's the guy who's coming from Hawaii, but I could be wrong. No, he's not. He's coming from Colorado State. Is it Colorado State? I think it is. Yeah, that's right. So he just had a game to remember. 21 of 33, 287 yards and 6 touchdowns thrown by him there. Oh, and by the way, he ran for 110 yards at 8 yards per carry on the ground as well, so he was the leading receiver. Percy Agyei-Obese got 82 yards on 15 carries, 5.5 yards per carry. I mean, the receivers filled their boots. Chris Thornton, 12 receptions, 155 yards, 3 touchdowns. Reggie Brown, 5 receptions, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns. Those two, between them, 230 odd all-purpose yards and 5 touchdowns. They both went to work, and there were 5 sacks on the defense. Middle Tennessee, their offensive stats, their success rate, so their offensive play success rate was 26%. That's 0 percentile. Their explosive play rate, 2%, 0 percentile. Third down success rate, 33%, 3rd percentile, 3 percentile. Red zone success rate, 0. They had no successful drives in James Madison's red zone, and the defense wasn't much better than that. James Madison, however, their defensive run stuff rate, 38%, 100th percentile. Their havoc rate, 23%. That was 100th percentile. I think they had the biggest havoc rate of any team in college football this week. They had 14 tackles for loss and 4 sacks. Middle Tennessee had 8 tackles for loss, but it didn't really matter at the end of this one. I mean, even you, Ryan, predicting how they were going to come up out of the FCS, did you expect them to blow out Middle Tennessee so comprehensively? I mean, fair play to them. What a debut. Great win for you, but no one saw that coming, surely.
No, it's pretty embarrassing for Middle Tennessee. I don't know if did they just underestimate them and you just get blown away, or did they just not turn up? They just had the wrong attitude. They thought they were going to welcome them to league. Like I said, I think it's safe to say that James Madison have probably forgotten about the win already. It's never going to be that dominant again. I don't think it will be. Like you say, that's not going to happen every week. If you go into a game thinking you can do that, you'll get a rude awakening. But yeah, just a very well coached team that just took all their chances. Like you say, a debut from a quarterback that is very unheard of. Like you say, what was it, like 400 yards of offense, like 7 touchdowns accounted for? Like, those things just don't happen. No. Like you say, but it was a savvy transfer. Like you say, they got a good FBS ready QB from Colorado State, and he's just stepped in and he's going to fill his boots. It's going to be interesting to see, can they be instant challengers in that conference? Can they make a title run in their first year?
Well, you'll find out. I mean, I think it's Norfolk State next week, but they've got App State in 2 weeks. And I mean, App State have shown their defense is pretty bad this year, so if they're going to go and put some offensive points on them again, you can knock off App State, you're absolutely putting a claim in on the conference. So it's interesting to see. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust to playing FCS opposition again. Now they're top of Norfolk State, going to come and cause them issues. Are they going to maybe get too big for their boots there? Who knows? But yeah, fair play to them. You can't ask any more. And I mean, what a debut for them. So well done, James Madison. The last one of our pick watch, one of the three that I actually did pick this week, and we swept this. Cincinnati versus Arkansas. Cincinnati 24, Arkansas 31. Now, we had concerns about Cincinnati this year. Obviously, 9 players lost to the draft, more lost to graduation. This was a lot of their team they were replacing. But you know what? I came out of the end of this game quite happy for them. Their defense was really good. Now, it took a lot. It took KJ Jefferson a lot of effort to break this defense down and put points on the board. But he did, because he's KJ Jefferson, and he's one of the most underappreciated quarterbacks in college football. But they looked good. They stopped the run. They battled hard. They went up against SEC caliber wide receivers and, competed against them. And at the end of the day, if that offense would have started off quicker, they could have ended up maybe sneakily winning this game, because the offense came to life in the second half, but it was just a bit too late by them. But I mean, my first thoughts of Cincinnati are they're going to do well this year on the back of this.
See, I don't trust Ben Bryant. I think that offense has lost a lot. Like I say, the defense. Like I say, they've got the Pace Junior brothers now, aren't they?
Yeah,
and
they look good.
They're going to be key. On his debut, Ivan Pace Jr. looked really good. He is a really big pickup from the portal. Like I say, they did well. Like I said, the defense is really good. For me, I just don't trust the offense. I just don't feel like Ben Bryant's ceiling will ever be able to live up to Desmond Ridder. He started slow but picked up. But like I say, the Arkansas defense, like I say, they played pretty well. Like I say, Cattle on the safeties looked pretty good. Started really slow.
He's injured.
If they come... Yeah, he did pick up an injury. If Cincinnati come up against a bigger, tougher defense, I feel like their offense is going to have really struggled. Like I said, but to lose so much is to be expected to start slowly. In the end, Arkansas just showed their muscle.
They did, absolutely. Evan Pace, for the record, 12 tackles and a sack on his debut. That's not bad from him at all. Really got it in there. Jaquan Shepard did well for them as well. He had 9 tackles and a sack. 8 of those were solo ones, though. But yeah, Ben Bryant, 26 of 43, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. The pick was costly to them. The running game, Corey Kiner, 12 for 59 and a touchdown, 5 yards per carry. It was alright, but Arkansas were a team who struggled in the SEC for years. Under the new coach, they do look better, and I know they should probably maybe expect to beat Cincinnati by more than 7, but this was a game they could easily have lost in recent years. And I know people are going to get fed up with me talking about KJ, but I just think he's such an underappreciated guy. 18 of 26, 223 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had 62 yards and a score on the ground. He's a tank. It's so hard to bring him down the way that he is built, and he's absolutely going to get good draft coverage this year, I hope. I'm gonna force it. I'm going to will it to happen on the people. So, yeah. Get on the KJ Jefferson hate train with that one. And that was the 10 from the pick watch. Like I say, Ryan went 6 and 4. I went 3 and 7. I mean, we can have a look through some of the other games. The other noticeable ones, I want to talk about the backyard brawl in a minute, because that was amazing. But we didn't have it in the pick watch, unfortunately. But there were some upsets around the league this week. William and Mary smashed Charlotte at Charlotte, 41-24. Delaware beat Navy. There's the meme going around of the Delaware coach going, I'm fucking proud to be whatever it is down there, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry for swearing. But he was so delighted with himself there. They upset Old Dominion, upset Virginia Tech. They had a 1% post-game win expectancy to win that. As I say, 1 time out of 100, the way they played, they would have won that game, and they somehow won it. Well, we know how they won it, because of Grant Wells and his love of throwing picks. 4 in that game alone. San Jose State, 4-point winners over Portland State. They nearly lost to Portland State, who are an FCS team in there. Florida International, 38-37 winners over Bryant. They needed a touchdown and a 2-point conversion right at the death to not lose to Bryant. I mean, Christ, there were some shocks this weekend, and there are some teams who look really bad. What stood out for you amongst the other slate of games that we've not really talked about yet?
There was some, like I said, the Oklahoma State defense looked bad. They just went to sleep. Like I said, they had a 38-point lead against Central Michigan, and that game ended with 14 or less. There was a period, like say, between like the end of the second and the start of the fourth, where Central Michigan just ran wild. The game had already been lost, but yeah, they really went to sleep. But Spencer Sanders put on an absolute clinic. He threw like 5 touchdowns, picking up where he left off last season, where the Cowboys, like I said, did well in the championship game. He had a really good finish last season and started really well this season. But yeah, their defense, not good. Like I say, they should not have let them back into that game, but their offense did look very good. I suppose we have to talk about Iowa.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't
Spencer
know,
Petras is a shit quarterback. It's fucking dreadful. Like that, they're just so bad. That defense is just so good. Like I said, that was the team I was talking about earlier. They won 7-3. Like I said, it was two
safeties and a field goal.
And a field goal. Like that is unheard of. Like I say, that it was just ridiculous.
Hang on, I'm going to get the stats up for that one there, just because it is absolutely hilarious to read through some of the offensive stats in that game.
It was about 117 yards passing he finished with, but it got nearly all that in the second half. He did absolutely nothing in that first half. They just kept punting to each other.
Right, so the stats page I read for this, so all these stats here, so you've got expected points per play, success rate, yards per play, expected points on dropback, expected points on rush, yards per dropback, explosive play rate, third down success rate, red zone success rate. Both teams 0 percentile in everything. They didn't even get a 1 percentile in offensive stats. Everything was flat bang 0, the worst in the entire slate of games this weekend. Now, I mean, the offenses, on the other hand, went crazy. You know, the havoc rates were 12 and 16%. The run stuffing rates were 25 and 23, which is really good. I mean, they just, it was absolutely an atrocious game. And yeah, I don't want to mention it more, but Iowa State are coming to town this weekend, and they're outsiders, and they're travelling to Iowa. I have zero problem with betting on Iowa State this week, given how awful that Iowa team looked. But I mean, I'm kind of disappointed in South Dakota State as well, because they're one of the better FCS programs, and they put up 3 points. Now, don't get me wrong, the Iowa defense is usually pretty good, but they have to take some blame as well in this, don't they? They should have won this game. You can't lose a game when the winning team wins 7 points.
Yeah, they should have won. Like I said, they generated no offense. Iowa won because of special teams. They pinned them that deep that they couldn't get out their end zone. To force 2 safeties in a game is very impressive. The Iowa defensive line did really well. So couldn't pin them deep, and then they forced them in.
So this was the stat I wanted to bring up, actually, the podcast I watch from a guy over there who's really knowledgeable about his college pod. He did this game. Do you know the average starting position for these two teams? For South Dakota State, they started on average on drive on their own 18. Iowa started at their own 38. So you are basically at halfway down the pitch on every single offensive drive you have in a game, and just score 7 points. Not one of them is a touchdown. 2 of them are safeties made by your special teams. Your defense, sorry. How sorry is that? No offensive points, and you start on average at your own 38. That is something you would expect from putting a team of high schoolers against an NFL defense. Not an FBS team against an FCS team. This is a level down. Yeah, right, we need to stop talking about this because it is upsetting us. Other games...
Louisville.
I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, that is. Would you say that's the FBS on FBS upset of this week? You know, I mean, we talked a lot of games there.
Performance-wise, yeah. But, I mean, Louisville got hyped up with Malik Cunningham. They got a big time transfer from Jermaine Lole from ASU, defensive line. They've got another player in my pro team. They were crap. Syracuse just ran the ball on them. Sean Tucker again just looked fantastic.
So they said the reverse fixture last year, Louisville won 40 points to 7, I think it was, and now it's just flipped on a dime. And it's like Malik Cunningham is still the quarterback. 152 yards and 2 interceptions. That was his day. And he ran at 2.6 yards per clip, which is not like him. I think you have to give kudos to the Syracuse defense there. I mean, they stopped him from playing. He's one of the most dynamic playmakers in the ACC when it comes to quarterback. But I mean, you know, they just kept him bottled up. But that was disgusting. The other one that caught my eye, Rutgers beat Boston College. Rutgers won a football game.
That game, yeah.
And you know what? I'll give him kudos. Rutgers' offensive coordinator, he knows that he doesn't have a lot of quality to work there with, but he's got a playbook and a half. I mean, some of the plays they were coming up with were just confusing their hell out of Boston College, because their defenses aren't traditionally that bad. They get some good guys in the NFL, but I thought he really rolled out the playbook for this one. I was quite impressed in the end.
Phil Jurkovec is so overrated.
Yeah, I agree.
He's not good. Zay Flowers, he's really talented. BC will kill his draft stock. I'll say now, my tight ends that I actually picked for my preseason team is George Takats. And that's because in his 4 years at Notre Dame, he had about 100 yards and about 10 receptions. He had seven receptions in that game alone. He's 6'6" and a senior. Every time Jurkovec just tried to rely on Zay Flowers, he threw multiple interceptions, and they were awful. He threw awful interceptions. Phil Jurkovec is blowing his draft stock. BC like crap. And Rutgers, I agree. They ran reverses like on back-to-back players and scored. Like I said, they ran a Wildcat. They ran, they looked really good, and they've got some good offensive weapons. Like I say, so that was a big win for Rutgers. But yeah, BC, they just look bad. They just could not diagnose anything on defense, and offensively, I worry about them. You can't just throw it to Zay Jones on every play because they just started double covering him.
Yeah, I agree. It did not look good for them whatsoever. But you know what? I'll give play to Rutgers. You know, I know this offensive coordinator, I can't remember his name, but he has hype about him. I know there's a lot of people who are quite excited about him there. So, you know, interesting to see how they do when they come up against the bigger Big Ten teams. Can they put some points up the board?
It's not Greg Schiano at Rutgers, is it?
I don't know. There's that many things to learn about. God, that's the one that slipped through me. I was listening to this guy about him today, and he said that there's a lot of people who are hyped about this Rutgers OC. So let's see what he can do to us. Oh, my man Grandizer at 12 is in the house. Welcome to you, good sir. It's great to have you in the chat with us all the time. Really do appreciate you. Love the enthusiasm you bring. Great having you around. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be even nicer to Ash this week, because I said that the only quarterback in the ACC worse than Jordan Travis was Schrader, the Syracuse guy. I'm gonna put Malik Cunningham below Jordan Travis now, and he can be like 12th or whatever. I think Jordan Travis has just sneaked above Malik Cunningham for me. So Cunningham and Schrader not as good. Everyone else you've still got to catch up to. I don't want to hear a word about Devin Leary. He had a good week, and I won't hear bad about him otherwise. Oh, Ash has reminded me about that in Twitch. Oh yeah, Greg Schiano. Hang on, no, the head coach is Greg Schiano at Rutgers. OC is Sean Gleason, that's the name. No, there's a lot of hype about Sean Gleason there. So yeah, good on them. Were there any other games that I put down to mention here? I think we've... Oh right, yeah, the last one. We'll sign off the review on this one. The Backyard Brawl. Did you end up watching this one? This was a fantastic game. West Virginia 31, Pittsburgh 38, but this was a game for the purists. This This was nasty. This was violent. This was everything you wanted it to be. These two haven't met one another, I believe, since 2008, and it was like they'd put 13 years of hatred and that, wrapped it in a ball, rubbed it all over them and sent them out there to do the damage on one another. These two defensive lines were so good. You had like Savotier Dennis on the Pittsburgh team. I need to look more at Savotier because I love the name and he is dominant. And then on the West Virginia side, is it Stills? The guy's name, Dante Stills.
Yeah, Dante Stills.
Dante Stills was, I mean, this was a wonderful game. It was intense, it was back and forth. I mean, even JT Daniels, we've criticised him for his injury history in the past. He took some hits in this one, and I don't just mean hits, he got trucked at least 3 times that I can remember. He kept getting back up and he kept slinging the ball round, and, you know, it was just a little too much for them in the end. But I mean, I think the Backyard Brawls is one of my favourite college games I've watched in years for me. It just had everything in it.
Yeah, like I say, it was certainly heated. There was a lot of penalties.
Yeah.
It was an ugly game, like I said, it was massive. I'll still stand by it, Slovis 89. King Slovis, I think he's trash.
Yeah.
I don't care if they won, like I said, I still don't rate him. Like I say, they brought him in to be a saviour, like I say, they barely put away West Virginia team. Like I say, there was some standout players. What was the West Virginia's name? Is it Washington?
Wheaton.
The receiver that looked
Wheaton.
really
Bryce Wheaton.
Ford something.
Bryce Wheaton.
Ford Wheaton. Yeah, he looks pretty good. Yeah, there were some talent players, like you say, yeah. Savotier Dennis, he is a really good stand-up outside linebacker, defense number 7. He's solid. But like I said, there's just some really mean, nasty guys on there. And it was fun, yeah. It was very back and forth. Either team could have won that.
Yeah. It was a great advert, though, I think, for it. Both of those. It feels like both teams kind of won in this game. I know West Virginia didn't, but I saw a lot from them. If they can continue to be that disruptive on the defensive line, and JT Daniels continues to stay healthy and sling the ball around, they're going to win a lot of games this season. I still think they might win more than Pitt. I'm with you. I don't think Slovis looked good. I think it was more because the West Virginia defense got tired and the secondary was a little vulnerable to getting passed on. So yeah, it was what a week it was. The only other game I mentioned, there was only one 70 burger this week. That was the Miami Hurricanes dropped 70 on Bethune-Cookman. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I mean, I guess you didn't learn much about Arizona State this week. They crushed Northern Arizona 40-3. Did you take anything away from the game with them this week, or is it kind of just meh, it's a win, on to harder pastures now?
Well, we've got a very hard game this week, but I told everyone like 2 weeks ago, Xavier Balladair, star transfer running back, one of the best running backs in the nation. 117 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the best form this week. And Emory Jones looked quite good. I did not know what to expect from him. Everyone shat on him when he left Florida. He looked okay. But this weekend, I'm not very confident. I don't feel good about this game this weekend.
No, we're going to discuss that now. We're going to move on to week 2 because we've been going for a little while on this, but I mean, there was just so much packed into week 1 that it was always going to take time. I just want to sign off. You've mentioned leading rusher in the nation a few times here. 2 of those guys you mentioned are up there. The actual leader at the minute, though, belongs to UConn. We mentioned the UConn guy week 1 who got like 193 yards against Utah State. He picked up another 123 this week. I think he's just shading the rushing in the nation so far. But yeah, UConn and Indiana have the top 2 rushers currently. That probably is not going to stay the same as the season goes on. But his name is Nathan Carter. He's had a great start to the season for UConn, so fair play to him. And that is the review there of week 1. So let's get straight into week 2. So we want to get through this and then hopefully fit a few more things in before we go off the air. So we're going to go through the 10 fixtures we've got for the pick watch this week, and then if there are any others you want to mention feel free and go to it. But week 2 is always kind of the week where a lot of the FBS teams are playing FCS teams. A lot of the ranked teams are. A lot of the better teams are playing in there. So the 10 fixtures we've pulled up this week are pretty much the most competitive you've got going. You might not find a lot of upsets out of these, but you know, when you say something like that, something always happens. So Ryan, get ready to place your bets for this week. You're kicking my ass at this at the minute. So let's have a look, see what your thoughts are this week. So the first game, and just for anyone who's listening to us who is doing our pick watch at the minute, the sheet is up. You can put your bets in for this weekend. I put the money line in for all these to help you, maybe give you a suggestion as to which way to go if you don't know your college balls so well. So we had a great first week. A couple of guys went 8-2, some went 7-3, one went 6-4, one went 4-6, and I'm at the bottom 3-7. So the week 2 preview, we are starting with USC, not that USC, the other USC, South Carolina. They travel to Arkansas. We have Arkansas back in the pick'em again. Arkansas are 7.5 point favourites in this one. Both teams come into this on the back of wins. South Carolina, they dispatched Georgia State 35-14, but I've seen that clip of the Spencer Rattler pass about 100 times now. Everyone's posting it, but he was not that good. He threw for about 210 yards, a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He threw 2 picks against Georgia State. I don't think he looked great. They're coming up against Arkansas. Obviously, they put away a spirited Cincinnati team 31-24 this weekend just gone by. Ryan, thoughts on this one? Who's going to win out between these two?
Like I say, up and down Rattler. Like you say, he looked nervous. He looked like he knew this was his last chance saloon. Like I say, I'm not confident in this, but I think I'll take Arkansas. As long as they don't start as slow as they did last week, but I think they can cause problems. I think they can make Rattler. I think they can force errors. Like I say, I think they will be able to create problems and get turnovers. But I think this would. I don't think it's going to be an attractive game on the eye. I feel like it could be a bit sloppy, but I think Arkansas have got enough to get over the line.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I think Arkansas are going to win. I think they'll probably just about cover the spread here at 7.5. The injury to Catalon is a big concern. You know, he's one of the best safeties coming into this draft season, Catalon is, and that's going to be a big loss for them. And if Spencer Rattler's going to target that safety core with some of his quicker guys, that's where some of South Carolina's points may come from in this one. But I've got confidence Arkansas can see them down and KJ can have another good week. So me and Ryan both going Arkansas. Now here is where it starts to get a little bit tougher. The Baylor Bears, really good side last year, lost a bit to the draft, but this is still a decent team we're talking about. They're on the road to Brigham Young University, otherwise known as BYU. BYU 3.5 point favourites for this one. Both teams coming off dominant wins week 1. So Baylor beat FCS team Albany 69-10. So they basically put up a 70 burger on them. BYU dropped a 50 burger on South Florida. These two offenses together put up 119 points on week 1. So basically matched what UNC and Appalachian State did. Who is going to reign supreme in week 2? Ryan, Baylor at BYU.
I'm going to say Baylor, because I saw BYU and they didn't get a run game going real well. I'm pretty sure Nakau, the star wide receiver, was the leading rusher, and Baylor found a potential stud freshman in Richard Reese to take some pressure off of Shappen. I think Baylor are going to come in, and I think the cobwebs have been shaken off. Like I say, I don't know if Jaron Hall can beat them on his own.
Oh, see, I'm picking Baylor here as well. I didn't know if we were going to verge on this or not, but I'm the same. I know it's just Albany last week, but we've seen a lot of, several FBS teams got upset this weekend. Several got run right to the last plays of games. It's not necessarily so easy against these teams. And Baylor, yes, they did lose a few guys last year, but Jaron Hall is not known for the massive downfield passing. He's a good quarterback, don't get me wrong, but where Baylor lost in the secondary, I don't feel like he's going to kill them too much there while the new guys are bedding in. So, and I'm with you. BYU, they miss Aligier. Aligier was that running group. He won them some games last year. The bell cow way he ran that ball, grounded the clock down, got the heavy yards. I'm with you. I think we're going for a sweep here. Both me and Ryan are going for Baylor in this one. Next up, Oregon State traveling to Fresno State. Now, Fresno State favoured by just 1 point. And I can tell you right now, there is zero love for Jake Haener in the pick watch this week, because I've not seen one person pick Fresno State so far. I don't know if they know something that we don't here, Ryan, but I don't know. Again, both teams won first week. Oregon State, they tossed aside Hank Backmeyer and Boise State 34-17, and we didn't mention Boise State, but they looked awful. And Fresno State knocked over Cal Poly 35-7. Thoughts on this one? Oregon State at Fresno State, 1 point spread for Fresno.
Oh, I'm taking Oregon State. Great last year, started well this year. Got one of our players to watch in Rajon Wright, one of the most underrated defensive backs in the Pac-12. They've got a good quarterback. They've got an offense that can score points. The gap in the state of Oregon, I'll tell you now, is closing. Football in Portland, Oregon State have got a little bit closer to Oregon in the last 2 years. I think they're going to be a side to watch this year. I've got them putting Fresno State away. I think they'll win by like 3-7.
Oh wow! So you're agreeing with everyone else then? I mean, I don't know. I feel like when we did the drop down on Fresno State, this is not a bad team, and obviously Jake Haener is a difference maker there. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna break from you for the first time here. I am gonna be like the sole guy, unless anyone else has bet on them so far. I'm calling Fresno State. I believe in Jake Haener. They have the home advantage here. Not saying Oregon State are a bad team. I really like Oregon State as well, but I think this is close. The money line suggests that it is close as well. So Ryan goes Oregon State. I go Fresno State. And so far, everyone has won their games. Now we come to the battle of the losers, and this one is hard to pick, and this is split on the pick watch as well. Boston College at Virginia Tech. There is a 3.5 point advantage to Virginia Tech in this, I would assume, home advantage. But we mentioned Boston College coming off an ugly loss to Rutgers. They lost 22-21. Virginia Tech got beaten by Old Dominion, who, as I mentioned 3 or 4 times already, had a 1% post-game win expectancy in this, and they won. This was 2 awful defeats for these sides. They are reeling from these defeats. They are meeting up in week 2. Who's going to rebound and put a little bit of respectability on their season, right?
Virginia Tech are going to get plastered. Crappy offensive line, quarterback out of his depth. Zay Flowers is going to torch them. Boston College are going to win comfortably. I think literally Jerkovich and Zay Flowers will take them down on their own. BT cannot match up, I don't think. They're going to have a really bad year, the Hokies.
What he said. I can't add more to that, really. I agree. Virginia Tech are an awful team, and I don't know how they've got 3.5. I don't know how they're favoured by 3.5, even though they're home. I mean, I guess the one redeeming thing here for them, this is their first home game of the year, so it's the, what do they call it? It's not the whiteout, it's the, what's Virginia Tech's home game? It's got that special thing to it, you know, when they're playing, you know what I mean. They have the big run out. They have the epic stuff.
Yeah, Enter the Sandman.
They have Enter Sandman. They have the big run out. Is it the Orange Out or something like that? They have like the big show, and they beat UNC in that big show last week. The sort of strength of emotion, the noise they made it impossible for Sam Howell to communicate with his offense. So I kind of wonder whether that's going to have an impact again, because I saw visually how much it affected UNC's game plan. But at the same time, I'm with you. Boston College are a much better football team at this moment in time, and I don't foresee them succumbing the way that UNC did. Boston College, for one, are known for making their offensive lines. UNC's was trash last year and got Sam Howell nearly killed. So I'm maybe more reluctantly than you, but I am going Boston College as well. All Pac-12 next, USC traveling to Stanford USC are 8.5-point favourites. USC whipped Rice 66-14 week 1. Stanford rinsed Colgate 41-10, and I promise that's not a toothpaste pun, but hey ho, there it is. 100 points put up by these offenses again. USC are favoured by 8.5, but before you start thinking that Lincoln Riley and his big group of big bad men are going to roll into Stanford and just win, just remember, Stanford took down Oregon at home last year, and Oregon were the big bad team playing well this year, so this ain't as cut and dry as it's made out to be. USC Stanford, Ryan, is there going to be another upset, or is Lincoln Riley going to roll into town and wash his teeth with them? No, that's the wrong joke. But hey,
Lincoln Riley's rolling out again, and USC are winning. And finally, people are going to shut the fuck up about Tanner McKee. He's so overrated. He's had a few games last year. If you look at overall his career, he's been crap. He's just a big lanky get that likes to toss it. Now, Stanford getting blown out. Like I said, they've got a young players, USC, that need time to mature. But I think they're going to definitely get to... they're going to have a good side now. They've got those shaking off the rust. I just don't rate Stanford. Stanford have been irrelevant for about 5 years. They're not going to find relevance now either.
See, I feel like every time, because I like Stanford, but I feel like every time I kind of let them slip into what I feel is, they're just there and they're going to be there. They cause an upset. They do something. I did not expect them to beat Oregon last year, yet they took it into overtime and they took them down, and it was so impressive. And I'm like you. I think it's disgusting that a guy like Tanner McKee is in top 5 conversation for quarterback this year, and KJ Jefferson is nowhere to be seen. Tanner McKee does not belong in top 5 quarterback conversations this year at all, and I think he's overrated as well. But Grandizer agrees with you. He says he is a bender, Ryan. I agree with you. I shouldn't be erring because I'm behind in the pick watch and I need to start winning, so I need to be picking favourites. I'm going to go USC, but I'm going to go reluctantly. So that's a USC sweep. But if Stanford surprised them, I would not be surprised in the slightest. Now, let's see where you are. Arizona State at Oklahoma State.
You don't even need to be asking me.
Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, 11.5-point favourites for this one. I mean, right, I'm just going to ask, who's going to win this one, Ryan?
Oklahoma State, we're going to get rinsed. We will lose against every ranked team this season. We will not beat any big team because we have, for the last 2-3 years, when we've come up against big sides, we've had our ass handed to us.
So, you watched Central Michigan rip these apart for a couple of quarters last year. Now you can say that maybe they took the foot off the gas in that, but you're better than Central Michigan. You have more weapons than Central Michigan. You have a dynamic quarterback like Central Michigan do. Do you not think they can cause them some trouble? Are you not concerned by how Oklahoma State sort of folded a little bit against them? Do you not think there is an opportunity there for Arizona State at all?
No. If this Arizona State team falls 38 points behind, they'll roll over and have their belly stickled. Last year and the year before that, they were gutless. They haven't found a gut now. We've lost all the players. Coaching, don't trust them as far as they can throw them. Like I say, they'll beat some minnows like they did week 1, but now this will not be close. They're going to cover the spread. They might even double it.
Oh, I don't know. I wanted to take the upset here, but the way you've watched them, so I'm kind of going to go with expert advice here, the home man team, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to go Oklahoma State, but just know that I was going to say Arizona State before you kind of said otherwise. Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry, my language. Det Fanman's in the chat. He goes, I'm starting to hyperventilate. I know this isn't the Lions day, but another injury up front the Lions have to worry about. Centre Frank Ragnow was limited today at practice because of a groin injury. Okay, I'm just going to switch off. I don't want to think about the Lions at the minute. I'm done. I'm done with injuries. They upset me. college football, talking about college football makes me happy. Talking about the Lions' injury record makes me sad. Oh my word, right. Let's carry on with this. So yeah, we've both picked Oklahoma State to win. A few more to go. Right, now this is where it gets interesting. Kentucky at Florida. Florida favoured by 4.5 points. Kentucky beat Miami, Ohio, week 1, 37-13. Florida, as we've already discussed, dispensed with Utah, or more, Utah screwed themselves and Florida were able to win this one. This is potentially, and I know you'll hate me to say it, but this is a potential battle of future Lions quarterbacks, maybe? Will Levis versus Anthony Richardson. The quarterback battle is there to be had. There is no Chris Rodriguez. He seems to be suspended for a very long time. I don't know what's going on here. He's not on the depth chart for this week. They missed him week 1, but they still won. What do you think here? Can Kentucky go to Florida and come away with the win? Because 4.5 points, that feels like a lot for an ACC team against a decent SEC side.
No, I don't think they can. You saw they struggled without Chris Rodriguez in week 1. There was no run game to help Will Levis. He started too slowly, came into the game. I think Florida can jump out to an early lead, and I think Kentucky will flatter to deceive. So I'm going to take Florida. I think they'll build on what they've done in week 1. And I just don't think Kentucky can manage that game well enough without their running back. I think any chance they had of an SEC upset this year ends if Chris Rodriguez is not allowed back on the team. He's the heart of the offense, not Will Levis. He just complements him.
I know we're both very high on Chris Rodriguez. They're not saying a word about what's happening with this, so you know it's serious, because they cannot say a damn thing, which probably means that it is, well, not criminal, but it's legal in some way. They're not allowed to say whatever's going off, and he's not on the depth chart. The coach is saying absolutely nothing. It is concerning there. That said, I like Kentucky still. They are a team that make first-class linemen on both sides of the ball. I still believe in Will Levis as the quarterback, and as much as Anthony Richardson was good, Florida weren't great against Utah. Utah lost that game. Florida didn't win it. I'm going Kentucky here. You say you're going Florida?
Yeah. So
we're breaking on this one. So Ryan goes Florida, I go Kentucky, but, who knows what the hell is going to happen with this one. Grandizer goes, oh good, Lions talk, can we growl due to the injuries? Det Fan Man growled. Yes, let's all growl in the chat because of Detroit Lions injuries. If Ragnar really is injured, then I'm giving up. I just don't care about this season. I'm already done with it. I'm fed up. I just want a fit team. Is that too much to ask? Few fit players. Ugh. Right, we've got 3 games left, and then we're going to go through Ryan's All-Star team for this week. Ooh, tasty. We're now going back to... Sorry, that was an All-SEC one I said before. I don't know why I said Florida or an ACC team. My apologies. Tennessee at Pittsburgh. Tennessee showed no mercy week 1 to Ball State. 59-10, nearly a 60-burger dropped them. Then Pittsburgh won the backyard brawl. They've come out battered, they've come out bruised, but they came out with the win, 38-31. Tennessee are the road side. They are 5.5-point favourites here. I'm just going to come out and straight up say I expect Tennessee to win this one easily. Ryan, am I wrong?
No. Hendon Hooker's going to put on a show, prove why he's one of the better quarterbacks in the country. I think Tennessee are going to win fairly comfortably.
I like the Pitt D-line, but I don't believe in Keaton Slovis, and I don't think he's going to hurt that Tennessee defense that hard at all. So, yep, nice and easy. Quick sweep there on Tennessee. The last 2, so Houston, they are back in the pick watch at Texas Tech. Texas Tech favoured by 2.5 points. Now, Houston, as we mentioned earlier, needed 3 rounds of overtime to put away UTSA, but they did that. Texas Tech dropped a 60-burger on Murray State. They won 63-10. However, starting quarterback Tyler Shaw has broken his collarbone. He is out for at least 6 weeks, so they have that to deal with. His backup came in and did play really well, in fairness. I think he had about 240 yards and 2 touchdowns, if I remember right. But he's playing Murray State. So you can make no firm conclusions about him from this. I'm going to go first again here. I think with the injury to the quarterback, Houston are going to win this at a canter, and I don't care that Texas Tech are 2.5-point favourites. Ryan?
I think Houston would have won with Tyler Shough in, because from what I've seen him 2 or 3 years, he's not very good. So yeah, Houston. I think Clayton Tune is going to batter them. He's going to put up big numbers again.
Were you thinking of a musical joke then? When Clayton Tune and then went quiet. I feel like you were thinking of a musical joke.
Come to me.
Right, and the last one, Iowa State at Iowa. 3.5-point favourites are the Hawkeyes, but yeah, they beat South Dakota State 7-3. That says it all. Iowa State won 42 points to 10 over Southeast Missouri State. I believe, if I remember rightly, you already made your prediction for this one earlier, and you said Iowa State were going to win this, but let's confirm it here. What are we thinking? Iowa State, Iowa.
Iowa State easily. Iowa ain't got any offense. Spencer Petras is just not good enough. So yeah, Iowa State. It will be close. The Iowa defense will keep them in it. They will, like last year. The Iowa defense last year kept them in it, forced multiple turnovers, but in the end, Iowa State, like I say, their offense overcome its flaws. Like the Iowa offense, it reeks. I just can't see them mustering enough to beat Iowa State.
See, I would agree in principle, but I remember when me and you both picked Maryland to beat Iowa last year, when Maryland started off hot, and they picked Taulier off, 5 times, I think, and they just kept forcing turnovers, and they blew them out at the end of the day, just because they kept getting good field position off that. I don't know enough about this Iowa State
Tyler
team.
Beatty back then, didn't they? They had a run game, didn't they, back then?
Tyler Goodson. Beatty was the Missouri one, I think. I don't know.
I haven't seen a run game this year, though, either. Iowa.
No. Well, if you can't run on South Dakota State, even with freshmen, then there's got to be something wrong with you. That offensive line should be doing better. I'm going to go with Iowa, and this is going to be like my Vanderbilt bet from week 0 when we did this. I have zero confidence in Iowa in this one, but I feel like that defense is just capable of digging the offense out of even the deepest of holes. I mean, when your defense can win you a game when you've scored 7 points, then anything's possible. So Ryan goes Iowa State, I go Iowa. Just to finish up, is there anything in terms of any other games in terms of week 2 who are you keeping your eye on for this week? Obviously, like I say, there's a lot of teams playing FCS opponents this year, but are there any we've not mentioned that you're intrigued by? Obviously, Alabama playing Texas. I guess that's one there that you've got. App State playing Texas A&M, but I mean, these kind of feel like they're going to be blowouts as well. I mean, any other thoughts about week 2?
Yeah, like Alabama, I just don't see Texas causing them a problem. Like, for all the talent there is on Texas, I just don't see it. I think Alabama will win comfortably, even though, like I said, they won 55-0 way opening week. Wasn't very impressive. Like I said, the level of opponent was very small. I'm not overly sold on actual Alabama this year.
No.
Arizona. The Arizona Wildcats. They were quite impressive in week 1. They got that quarterback from Washington State, Jaden DeLaura. They've got the star receivers in the nation, Jacob Cowley. I feel like they're going to be one of the redemption stories this year.
How was Jacob Cowan stashed on
quite a few games?
How was Jacob Cowan stashed at UTEP? It's like one of life's mysteries, isn't it? Like, what the hell was he doing there? But even now, it's like, what the hell is he doing at Arizona? I know they're Power 5, but they're bottom feeder Power 5. I mean, do you worry about when you play them this year?
Yes, I worry immensely. Washington State quarterback Jaden DeLaura caused us problems at Washington State last year, and now he's at Arizona. I worry about our 2,100-day unbeaten record. I think this is going to be one of the best territorial cups for years, because Arizona kind of look a bit dangerous. They might not be fantastic this year, but the Pac-12, it's pulled its socks up a bit. Oregon State, again, look good. Arizona look better. Washington, they've found some key players. So, yeah, there's a lot of teams to worry about.
Can Arizona beat Mississippi State?
Do you know what? I think they'll give it a really good go.
You won't be surprised if it was like a high-scoring Mississippi State win type thing.
Yeah, I could see something like that. Because, like I say, I'm going to be intrigued to watch Arizona this year. Be interesting to see how Oregon bounce back. Like,
yeah.
I just don't trust Bo Nix. I don't like him. I just don't like him as a quarterback. He just don't feel any confidence at all, does he?
Everything you've said, everything we've both said about Bo Nix is absolutely true. You know, kind of people go, oh, Bo's all right, and you know, he's like, no, he's not. He really, really, really is not all right. I think they're playing Eastern Washington this week, so I mean, Eastern Washington could put up points, I guess, if their defense is bad again. But you kind of hope they're not, because you want Noah Sewell to be good this year. But I don't know, it's a weird one. Bo Nix is bad, Keaton Slovis is bad, we know it all. Grandizer says Keaton Slovis is from Arizona, USA. He's coached by Kurt Warner. Is he coached by Kurt Warner, or was he? I think, in fact, now that he said that, I feel like there was a story about him being done so, but I don't think anything's going to help him at this rate. Keaton Slovis is done for. He ain't going to do well in the draft, so... Right, that is the Week 2 review done. So we've done the Week 1 review, we've done the Week 2 preview. We are going to finish off this evening, because we've been going a little while. Mentioned that me and Ryan were cooking up some sleeper teams for the Power 5 going into this year. Obviously, a week's gone by. We couldn't really fit it in last week, and to be honest, we're going a while this week. So what I'm going to do, Ryan, I'm going to let you reveal your all sleeper team this week, and then I will do mine next week, because I'm bearing in mind I don't want us to go forever here. So this is a list of teams that we've compiled. It's like a PFF preseason team. We've got one person at every position, 22 positions. These are guys who are not really getting national love or not enough appreciation, who we want to bring to your attention this season, because we didn't do we didn't do anything about the Power 5 this year. When we did the conference previews, we only had enough time to do the Group of 5 and the FBS Independents. So this we're going to do for you right now. So this is Ryan's all-sleeper team for the Power 5 this year. Start yourself off on offense, Ryan. Just work your way through as you go. Give us a little description for these guys, and just, yeah, go for it. These are the players who you want to watch out for in the Power 5 this year, who ain't not getting enough love. Over to you, Ryan.
Well, first QB is Will Rogers at Mississippi State. He just doesn't get any love. Last year, he threw for 4,700 yards. Now, the Bulldogs are not great. He doesn't rush well. He's not mobile. But he's 6'2", with a decent arm. And what does he do in week 1? 450 yards, 5 touchdowns, and interception. He's going to go down as one of their best quarterbacks of all time. And I think he's an outlier for this coming up draft. As a pure pocket passer, I don't know if anyone has got a fastest release. He's got a strong offense. Like I said, he's got a good arm. He reads well. And yeah, it's a pass-heavy offense, but he's proven that he's able to handle it. And that he may well be one of those guys that could go later, go undrafted. But he's only going to be as good as the Bulldogs are. So I feel like he really needs to get some wins this year. He needs to make a splash in the SEC. Otherwise, people will never take him seriously. But I think he's someone that the Lions may be interested in. He's got a strong arm. So that's my QB. I've got running back. I have to be biased. I did go Xavier Valladay, because I made this list 2 weeks ago. That was before he even played his first game as a Sun Devil. Back-to-back 1,000-yard years. Like I say, he was a Wyoming star. They needed him badly, and he left them. He entered for his final year. He's 6 foot. He's 1,000 proven yard rusher. And at week 1, he had 12 carries for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns. He looks every bit of 6 foot, and he is going to be another 1,000-yard back. He replaced Rashad White really well. And for an Arizona State team that lost 15 players to the portal, he is going to be crucial to watching us this season. So if we're good, if we're bad, I think he will put up good numbers, and now he's on a better stage. My backup running back is the freshman from Baylor, Rashard Reese. Now, he is only 5'9", but he looks really impressive. Like I say, he had like 45 rushing yards. He had some returning yards. Like I say, he had some receiving yards. He looks like he could be the main factor behind Shappen, the running quarterback. So I think he's going to get a heavy workload in a good offense. And he's not big, but he looks effective. So I've been really impressed with him.
I'm not going to lie, Ryan. When you said freshman running back, I thought you'd pick my guy. I've got a freshman running back as well, but not him. But I agree with you.
Got a new freshman. My first receiver is A.T. Perry. I just feel like he could have declared to draft last year, but people just don't give him respect he gets. Like I say, he had like 12 touchdowns last year. He is Sam Hartman's go-to guy. He's 6'5". He is an absolute domination. He just feeds off little guys. He's lean, he's tall, he's hard to defend against. And he didn't get much love in week 1, but Sam Hartman's back now, and he's his best friend. So watch A.T. Perry now run away into the draft and be one of the top 5 to 10 receivers taken in next year's draft. I think this will be his year to dominate. My other guy on the outside is, I knew Ricky Pearsall would do well at Florida. Like I said, the moment I saw him leave the end of the portal, I thought he could be the number 1 guy somewhere. He took the number 1. Like I say, he's tall, he's lean, he's got really good hands, he turns really well. Like I say, he has 60 yards in the opener on a new team. Big step up. Like I say, he's gone from Pac-12 to suddenly he's thrown into the SEC. And he got a lot of interest in the portal, but I think Anthony Richardson's going to make the most of him, so I'm actually really happy for him. And then a receiver that is on Duke is called Jalen Calhoun, and he is a running, receiving, returning threat. He had a breakout last year of 700 yards, and in week 1, with a quarterback that could be okay in Riley Leonard, Duke beat Temple 30-0. I've not seen Duke beat anyone that comfortably for I don't know how long. I want to see the Blue Devils actually have a good year this year, and this will be the guy that probably decides it or not. He was their star wide receiver last year. He's not big. He's got that small, slender frame that works all around the field, and he's going to be key to them having a big season this year. So I think he's going to be someone to watch, maybe as a sleeper going towards the end of there. I did mention the tight end, George Takats at Boston College. Phil Jerkovec needs a new weapon. Can't rely on Zay Flowers all the time because it's just too obvious. Like I said, he got like 7 catches in week 1. He only left Notre Dame after 4 years with about 20 catches, and he never had more than 100 yards receiving in a season. I tell you what, this season, he will smash all his numbers in one go. He's a senior, he's 6'6", and he looks like he's got good hands, so he's going to have his best career year here. The offensive line is where I struggled. I do not know a lot about this offensive line class, so I've started with a good, solid centre in Joe Tipman, Wisconsin. Badgers run the ball. Jonathan Taylor, and now they've got, in my opinion, the best back in the nation of Braylon Allen. Had another monster week 1. The kid is phenomenal, but he's only as good as offensive line. And Tipman is 6'6". He moves the pile. The offensive line just dominates in pass pro. And opposite him, he's got Nolan Rucci, a 5-star offensive tackle that's a freshman. He's like 6'2" as well. And them two together, I think, are just going to be the driving force that gets Wisconsin going this year. And they may make a Big Ten title game. They pissed about last year because their quarterback play wasn't very good. But 2 stud offensive linemen, best back in the nation. I've just realised I've got a BYU tackle accidentally, so he's not Power 5.
It's fine, go for it. No, go for it. BYU.
Blake Freeland's the offensive tackle from BYU. He is 6'8", and he is just a behemoth. Solid in pass pro, good in run blocking. A lot of the offense goes through him. He can get to the next level. And I think he will be fairly well regarded next year at the draft. So I think he's someone that really needs to be looked at. And then my final offensive lineman is Walter Rouse from Stanford. He's a left tackle. He's been playing since 2019, made the job his own then. He's 3 years in, and he has just been solid. Stanford have struggled the last few years, but the offensive line play and some of the linemen have been really good. And this is another guy that's an absolute man mountain, and I've just been really impressed by him. So I think he's going to get a bit of draft love just because he's shown that he can do it at a consistent level, even if his offense has not been firing on all cylinders the whole time.
I love that offense.
You move on to the other side of the ball.
No fullback. No fullback for Matt.
No. Oh, I have got a flex. My flex is Barrion Brown from Kentucky. Another freshman, wide receiver, kick returner, and a punt returner. He's currently one of the best so far returners in the nation, and I think he's going to be a big factor in the Kentucky offense if it does miss Chris Rodriguez this year. He's fairly small and slender, but he's someone that will rack up all-purpose multi-yards this season. So I'll put him in my flex spot. So my two defensive linemen, I already had Dante Stills before the actual game of the season, but he did rack up 2 sacks. Like I say, he's not the biggest. He's only like 6'3", 240, 250, but he moves well. Like I say, he's athletic. He can beat an offensive lineman off of the snap. He's really good, and I think he's going to be one of those that will get not much love, but could be a future kind of nose tackle or inside guy at the next level. Jermaine Lowley, like I say, Louisville don't look good. He didn't even play in the first game. I'm not sure why, but he left Arizona State. He had loads of offers when he went into the portal. He is 6'3", 225, a really athletic, highly sought after interior defensive lineman. Left after like 10 sacks in 2 years. Didn't play in week 1. Don't know why, and that does worry me, but he has got a lot of talent. I think he has got a chance to be someone and make a name for himself at Louisville this year. We've got 2 edge players. Right, Lonnie Phelps. I didn't really know who the guy was before this year, but it turns out last year he had 10 sacks at the Miami, Ohio Redhawks. And then this year, after 1 game, 3 sacks as a Kansas Jayhawk. 191 meters, absolute bruiser off the edge. So fast. He's going to rack up numbers. Like I say, he's only a junior, so he looks like someone that is going to flash, jumping up a big level with Kansas. So I think he's going to be really exciting. On the other side, I've got O'Shawn Mathis, Nebraska. The edge players at TCU for the last few years racked up like 14 sacks over 3 years, which was fairly respectable. Slow start in Nebraska. I watched the first game. Northwestern did a good job of phasing him out. But he did get his first sack in the second game of the season. So he's now wrapped up like 5 tackles and a sack. I think he will slowly get going. But he is someone to watch this year that could get the engine going a little bit once he starts firing on all cylinders. Could be impressive. Nebraska, a middle-line side, but he will be one of the flashes they have. My 2 linebackers are Dax Holyfield. Now, this guy had 90 tackles, like 4.5 sacks last year, and an interception at Virginia Tech. He has already forced a fumble this year. He's already got like a sack. He's already got multiple tackles. And on a bad defense, he looks like someone they rely on very heavily at that inside linebacker position. Like I watched the game where they really struggled. Like I said, Grant Wells kept turning the ball over, but he was physical. I think he fumbled. I think he recovered a fumble and forced another. He's got a nose for the ball. I think he's someone that could be really fun to watch. And then for my other linebacker position, going back to Nebraska, I've got Luke Reimer. Like I say, he's one of the leading tacklers in the nation this year from that inside spot, but also he's been like a 3-year starter. He's not the biggest at just like 6 foot, but he has a nose for the ball as well, racks up tackles. He can get the odd interception off sack, but if you're looking at a long-term starter in that conference, like he's someone that is very reliable, and he's from Lincoln. He's a hometown kid as well, so he's someone that is very important to their side. So if I go to the secondary, Rajon Wright, 6'3" lean corner from Oregon State. If anyone remembers the name, it's because he was on Last Chance U. Like I say, he's cocky. He's got some swagger about him. He's got a massive chip on his shoulder. Interception this weekend. Multiple interceptions last year. He started his career very slow when he got from JUCO to the FBS. But this year, he's making a bit of a name for himself. He's a big, long-range outside corner. And if he has a good year this year, he may well have his name called in 2023. On the other side, Riley Moss. I just couldn't leave him out. Like I said, keen linchpin defensive back for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Before he got hurt last year, he had 4 interceptions in the first half of the year. 2 of them were touchdowns. He won 2 of the games based on his own. So the Hawkeye, I think, is going to have a good year this year as well on a healthy defense. And I'd like to see him maybe in Detroit as a defensive back. So he's someone I really like. I've got 2 split safeties. I'm regretting picking Cameron Kelly, North Carolina. He had a breakout year last year, 4 interceptions. He got picked on heavily in the first game of the season. He only had a few tackles, but I think he can bring that back. He wears number 9. He's a leader on that defense, and I think he'll turn it around. So he's someone to watch for. And then one of the most experienced players I've picked on the team, I've gone Kendrick Duncan Jr. 6'3", 220-pound safety from Louisville. He's got better every year. Plays a strong safety. Tackles in the box. He's physical. He's a thumper. Comes downhill hard. Like I say, not the best in coverage, but he's been there like 4 years. Like I say, he's someone that probably will get drafted maybe in the later rounds, but I think he's someone that when the offense cannot maintain drives, he's someone that can rally the troops and he's happy to stay on the field and get them pumping and get them going. I think he's a really big part of what they try to do there in the Cardinals.
Terrific. Yeah, great work there. I mean, I'm going to do mine next week, but yeah, there are some terrific names on there, and you know, I've got a job to follow that now. I did a few little bits there. I feel insignificant in comparison, but I think we've only actually got 1 or 2 overlay though, which is a really good thing. So yeah, thanks ever so much for that, Ryan. So there is Ryan's sleeper team from the Power 5 from this year. So if you're wondering why there's not loads of Ohio State players, Michigan players, etc. in there, we're trying to shine the light on those where the light is not shone. We're trying to give a little bit of love to those who are not getting the love they deserve, whether it be coming into the draft this year or whether it be freshmen coming out of high school who are really going to put their names forward there. So wonderful work with that. Ash says wrong ACC safety. Disagree, but hey ho, you know, we've been nice enough, Ashley. That is enough. So you know, we've been nice to Florida State this week, and with that is everything for this week. Thank you for everyone who has joined us, whether it be on Twitch, whether it be on YouTube. I know we've gone a little long this week, but I mean, you know, we have 1 show a week about college football. There are 60 games per week. We have to review some of them. We have to try and preview some of them. We do the player stuff. It takes a little bit of time, but hopefully you enjoy everything we do here for you. Just remains for me to go through. Oh yeah, your O-line's got some good guys. So yeah, I do agree, Ash. Oh, Ash quickly wanted us to talk about Vanderbilt and Wake Forest this week. I think you've got Wake Forest destroying Vanderbilt, don't you?
Yes, I do respect Vanderbilt. Like I say that, I think Wake Forest. Sam Hartman coming back, but if not, they've got a decent running back, I think, in Christian Turner, I think he's called. So I think they can manage the ball on both sides well. But I think they might score some points, Vanderbilt. They look, like I said, they're full of beans, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be close, but yeah, I agree with you. I think Wake Forest are going to beat Vanderbilt there. So, as I say, the next shows for Royal Lions UK tomorrow witnesses the return of our preview podcasts for the season for the Detroit Lions. Every Thursday we will break down the upcoming week's opponents. This week it is the Philadelphia Eagles, and we will be doing a preview with the British and Irish Eagles. Now, Matt and Steve have been podcasting this evening with them. We've done sort of return trips to one another, so keep an eye out on the British and Irish Eagles podcast page to hear what Matt and Steve have to say to those guys on there. And then they are joining us tomorrow. Myself and Matt are on, a few of the guys coming over, so come join in. It's going to be a lot of good fun, and there'll be a lot of good banter. We've known these British and Irish Eagle guys for a while now. They come on our draft podcasts, and they're really good chaps, as one would say. As for us, the College Football Podcast will be back next week, Wednesday the 14th of September. We will be reviewing week 2, we will be previewing week 3, and I will be dropping my list of sleeper players in the Power 5 this season. So we've got all that and more to look forward to. And as always, if you're listening, if you want to know about certain players in the college circuit, if you want to know about certain teams, if you've got questions about the Lions and the draft, and you want us to do a deep dive on players and answer them, then have at it. Give us your questions. We did plenty of assignments for people last year. We'll look at safeties, we'll look at corners. We'll find the information you want to know. So hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on the streams here. Just let us know and we will do that for you. Just remains for me to go, unless there's nothing else nothing else college related wise we want to do this week, is there, Ryan? You all good?
Don't think so, no.
No? Been a great week. I'm looking forward to the next one. We'll see what it brings. So just remains for me to go through all our socials. You find us on YouTube at Roar of the Lions UK. If you haven't subbed to us and you like what we do, please give us a sub. It means everything to us there. We're over 500 and rising now. Twitch, ROTL_UK. Our Facebook page, Roar of the Lions UK. Our Facebook group, Detroit Lions Fans UK. One Pride Worldwide. Our Twitter and Instagram, you'll find us on ROTL_UK. And our website, www.roarofthelionsuk.com. Matt Turner just put out his preview. No, wait, I'm going to get this wrong. Ashley, our writer, has done a preview for the Philadelphia Eagles, which I believe is dropping tomorrow. Matthew Turner has put out an article recently as well, and I believe John, our other writer, is putting something out maybe today. There are articles coming out daily at the minute, so go onto the website, check them out. These are all great guys who can write great stuff. So thank you to everybody who joins us here on the College Football Cast. We love you all for joining us, and until next week, we shall bid you adieu and a happy